This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howe.
And welcome to the broadcast on this June 11th. How is it June 11th? How is it already June 11th? June 11th, 2026. This year is flying by, folks. We've got breaking news, of course, out of the Middle East and out of America. Logan, I'm going to forward you a clip. See if you can play this for me. I'm going to play two clips, by the way, tonight. Cops saving a baby's life. Inspirational. Thankful for the good cops. And then some cops not being real smart, not real bright, in my opinion. You can decide for yourself. Horseplay, horsing around. You'll see it. It's kind of shocking. We'll play that tonight. But news out of Israel and out of Iran and out of America tonight and out of all the Arab nations. We have a deal, says President Trump, but not so fast because not all the other nations maybe are quite aware of it. We'll get into that tonight. Our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aharon Levarko, and our expert on Iran, who was born and raised there, none other than Anni Cyrus, will join us tonight as well. Then we are going to go and talk with Peter McElveen from London about what's happening in Ireland, Belfast. The Islamists rolling in, one trying to behead a dude the other night. We're going to go and cover all of that. And what is happening? Is Nigel Farage likely to become the next prime minister? And what does Peter McElveen think about our friend that we've interviewed, Tommy Robinson? A lot to talk about with Peter. And then we're going to have on Dr. Bashima Williams, Beyond the Headlines, reevaluating the Women's Health Initiative. What about women that are going through menopause or about to go through menopause? What about hormones? You know, the idea was if you got on these hormones, you got some estrogen, that you might end up with cancer. And some women avoided that, particularly, a particular generation largely avoided that. And then, of course, there's the risk we're hearing now. If you don't do this, you could get Alzheimer's or dementia. We're going to talk about all that tonight with Dr. Bashima Williams, who has been researching this very, very aggressively over several years. It's a very important topic and certainly hits the demographic of one of my biggest demographics and audience is women 55 years of age and older. So we'll bring it to you tonight as a public service. Did President Trump really send $3 billion to the Islamic Republic of Iran? I'm going to ask Aharon Levarko about that tonight, as well as this. Trump administration making the states that sponsor terrorism great again, talking about Qatar. So much to get to tonight, no doubt about it. So let's get going. And now, before we do, folks, Logan, do you have the video I just sent you? The one about the cops. Look at this. These are police officers that just saved the life of a baby. These guys deserve a big thank you. And these are the kind of police officers we want to highlight. Very chilling. For any of us that, of course, are parents, grandparents, your heart's going out to these parents and you're so thankful for them and for this child. But congratulations to these police officers. I think they're out of Greenville, South Carolina, if I remember correctly. Watch this. Watch this. A baby has fallen into the pool, not breathing. Those poor parents. Accidents happen. We all know that as parents. But look at these cops.
All right. Ready? Go ahead.
Wow. Working on that little baby's chest. CPR. Oh, look at that dad. He just let out a big exhale. The child's breathing. Looked like a little smile on the mom's face. The ambulance is arriving. Let's rush the child right to the street. Get the EMTs involved. Look at the dad's got his hands up by his head, at his temples. He was just like this. Can you imagine a parent's worst nightmare? Almost brings tears to your eyes, doesn't it? Wow. Thankful for those cops. Now we have some other cops to go to, and these are guys in California. Logan, do you have the news story? We should just run the news story. This is really shocking, okay? Talk about yin and yang. Here we go.
Newly released video shows the moment a Pasadena police officer was shot by another Pasadena police officer.
So the police chief is calling this incident horseplay, but we've learned the injuries were serious.
Eyewitness News reporter Aharon Levarko is live in Pasadena with a closer look at just the unbelievable moment and the video. Irene.
Unfortunately, it is a tough one to watch. That video was just released yesterday, but it all stems from an incident that happened last year right here at the Pasadena Police parking garage. And we do want to warn you, the video is a bit graphic. So let's show you that dash camera footage. You can see a patrol vehicle pull up behind two officers standing by another car. One of those standing officers draws his gun and points it at the officer in the patrol vehicle and then reholsters it after a few seconds. You can't see what happens next in the video, but the Pasadena police chief says the officer in the driver's seat does the same thing, pointing their gun at the standing officer, only this time the weapon goes off. The shot goes through the windshield and ends up hitting the standing officer in the shoulder. The chief weighed in on the incident that happened in September.
Horseplay and/or failure to adhere to safety rules and standards of professional conduct will not be tolerated. This regretful conduct is not consistent with the expectations and service commitments of this department, and appropriate actions will be taken to ensure our culture reflects appropriate conduct, values, and service to this community.
He adds the officer who was shot has since recovered and that disciplinary actions have been taken. Now, according to the city, this case is still under investigation by the Pasadena Police Department as well as the LA County DA's office. In Pasadena, Irene Cruz, ABC 7.
Wow. Wow. What a contrast, right? You know, people do silly things, so we can't be too hard on them, but man alive. Isn't one of the first rules of a weapon is you never point a weapon at someone unless you tend to use it? And the other guy points it back and it goes off accidentally through the windshield. You know how bad that could have ended? Could have hit him right in the face and the head. I mean, it could have been such a different story. But here's the question. If that was caught on video with average civilians joking around and horseplay like that, what do you think would happen? I think they'd be charged, don't you? Yeah. I don't think anybody should go to jail over this. I think jail should be reserved for criminals that are violent, a threat to society. We send far many people to prison, to jail in America that are nonviolent people. Nonviolent people shouldn't go to jail. I know all that looks violent. They weren't deliberately trying to be violent. Just a bad situation, not a good decision on both parts, and then things happen, right? And I'm sure if they had to do it again, they wouldn't do that. We all live and learn. We all make mistakes. But the average civilian that did that caught on video would probably be facing some problems. And I think there needs to be an equal consequences. I don't know. I'm not sure those guys should be able to be police officers again. I mean, that's just not a good, I don't know. We should actually run a poll. That's one thing we need to do, Logan. Let's get our guy to get us where we can start running polls. Okay? Anyway, we are hearing the new Supreme Leader of Iran won't agree to the new proposed peace deal with the United States, according to reports from sources close to the matter. But we're going to get into this here in just one moment with Aharon Levarko and Anni Cyrus. Now, before we do, we have really big news here tonight, folks. Really big news. You guys have heard me for a year talking about how we have been working on the most powerful biblical worldview Bible software, we think, in the world, built on 36 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, national conferences, articles, and more, documentaries. Well, today we got a demo. And I am pleased to show you tonight how this works. And it's not even done yet. It's going to work even far better. Are we ready to unveil it? Do we have a drum roll or anything, Logan? Do we have a drum roll and all your sound effects in there? Or at least a cheering from the crowd? All right, that's good enough. Maybe not a drum roll, but that'll work. All right, you ready? Let's show this. What's that, Logan? What'd you do? Did you change my voice? Oh, he can make me sound like I've been inhaling helium. But anyway, all right. That's sitting the dog crazy. The Schnauzer's in here tonight. She's like, she's not like that. That's close, Logan. All right, you ready? Here we go. Let's ask. This is going to be available, we think, July 1st for Vault members. See me typing at the bottom there? What is communitarianism? All right, we asked. It's searching our very powerful database of so many years. And who knows, we'll probably speed up the power so it answers the questions a little faster. But I'm not so interested in speed as I am accuracy. Communitarianism is described as a blend of capitalism and socialism, creating a middle path between the two economic systems. It combines elements of both free market and capitalism and socialist principles for a hybrid approach. The concept is also characterized as mixing of big government and big business interests, sometimes referred to as corporate fascism or corporatism. It goes beyond just economic and also applies to religious and social spheres. Communitarianism is alternatively known by several other names, including Fabian socialism, internationalism, statism. It's sometimes described as a third way approach that represents a middle ground between pure socialism and pure capitalism. Now, notice this context. I just hit that button, context. Hello. And look at that. More.
And that's the sources.
That's the sources.
So down there at the bottom.
Watch this. Where's it coming from? It's coming from my book, Marxianity. It's coming from another live stream event by me. And look at that. Worldview Radio from September 16th,
2021.
2021?
Looks like it.
Isn't that something? All right, let's see. What else should we ask you guys? Who is Sarah? What is the book Jesus Calling? What is the book Jesus Calling about? Let's ask that. What's the book Jesus Calling about? It's searching through our database. Because maybe someone says, I've been reading the book Jesus Calling. You're like, what is that? Jesus Calling is a best-selling book written by Sarah Young that sold over 10 million copies since 2004. It's described as a devotional filled with daily inspirational messages. According to the search results, the book was created when Sarah Young decided to listen to God with pen in hand and write down messages she believed God was communicating to her personally. Young was inspired to write the book after reading an earlier work called God Calling. You ready, guys? Written by what? Two mystics in the 1930s. Now, you want more information on it? Context, there it is. 2 Peter. Peter says in 2 Peter, I had an experience. It was real, but I have something more sure. When someone comes to you and says, well, I have an experience with something. I wasn't there. I didn't have the experience. How can I disapprove? Well, you know something? I have the word more sure. So when Sarah Young, this is actually quoting me. When Sarah Young writes a book called Jesus Calling and has an experience, how could I ever say something like that was wrong, wacky, blasphemous, inappropriate? Well, you don't experience, you didn't. Well, Mike, you didn't experience it. How you take away for her experience? You know that the book Sarah Young, Jesus Calling, has sold more than 10 million copies. So I'm basically saying, what do you do with someone's so-called experience? And then I go into 2 Peter. And then I go into my book, The Coming Religious Reich. Now look at this. The Coming Religious, look at what it says. The Coming Religious, doesn't say Reich. What's it say? Riot. Okay? So we got to fix that. So this is not coming out to July 1st because we're going to do what we're doing now and notice things and then correct it so it goes into the system and fixes it. But it goes through there and tells you why this is a problem, why I believe it's white magic. Okay?
And the sources at the bottom are not going to look like that. They're going to actually be cards where you can click to the actual source.
Perfect. And you know why it says Mike? Well, Mike, you don't experience it. That's because the host was Mike. That wasn't me. That was one of our hosts, Mike, who is saying in the first person. He's teaching that from our studio, right?
Yep.
So there you go.
That's
it
what
gives
the
you the
context is. Each one is a source.
That way you'll know who the source is. What's the context? Who said this? Was it Brandon? Was it one of his hosts? Quite incredible. What else should we ask it, guys? Any idea? Let's see. What is ask it, what is contemplative prayer? Okay. Let me make sure I spell contemplative correctly. All right. Contemplative prayer is also known as Lectio Divina, soaking prayers, centering prayers, breath prayers. It's a form of prayer that has roots in Catholic mysticism, particularly operating from the teaching of St. Teresa of Avila in the mid-1500s. She's also known by other names, as I just said, centering prayers, soaking prayers. By the way, St. Teresa of Avila used to go through several levels of prayer, by the way, and by the third or fourth level, she thought she was becoming divine, part of God. She also would be seen levitating up off the floor. I'm not kidding. I guess she was the original flying nun. You guys are too young to remember the Flying Nun, but there was actually Sally Field played a TV show about the Flying Nun. But anyway, goes into what is that? Why is this a problem? And then this gives you the sources down here. And when these are fully done, you'll be able to click them and go listen to the actual program that it came from. Isn't that something? What else should we ask, Logan? One more. Let's see. No, what is Marxianity? Okay, let me ask that. What is, hang on one second. Refresh. What is Marxianity? Okay. It's thinking. There it is the title of a work that critiques the worldview of the emergent church movement. The author outlines what he considers to be main problematic tenets of this movement, including an ambiguous handling of scripture, goes on from there. And if, the work appears to be a comprehensive examination that connects various philosophical, political, and religious movements and figures. It discusses topics including Marxism, cultural Marxism, socialism, liberation theology, neo-Calvinism, and the perceived influence on contemporary evangelical Christianity and social movements. It includes extensive indexing of related concepts, organizations, and historical figures relevant to these interconnected themes. The context, there it is. That's actually, you know what that is? That's actually the index of my book. Look at that. I'm seeing this for the first time too, guys. Oh, yeah, coming from my book, Marxianity. It's going to be crazy, folks. Now, there you go. I hope you're excited because that's approaching $100,000 we have spent over the last year producing the world's premier biblical worldview software, Bible software program. What is neo-Calvinism? See what that does. And folks, you're going to be able to, Lord willing, start asking it questions coming up as soon as July 1st. Okay? So if you want to be a Vault member, you're going to be able to do that very, very right now. You can go to worldviewtube.com/vault. Okay? And this is only going to get better and better as we spend from now until July 1st asking it questions, tweaking it. And by the way, our system is still transcribing stuff. It's got about another 2 weeks before it finally finishes transcribing everything. It's got several thousand more radio shows to go. So imagine it's only going to get better. Now, we are going to have different family plans. Logan, do I have the list? Do I have that list? Is that in there? Did I hand you that list?
I think you may have.
I think I've handed you the
there'll be different plans.
Yeah, why don't you tell them?
Depending on how much usage you want.
Yes, tell them why.
Because it takes credits every time you ask a question.
It costs us money.
Yeah.
It's like filling your gas tank.
But the normal vault will have a certain limit, and then you can pay to have more and more and more.
Yeah. So $7.99 Vault membership, $9.99 a month, whichever one you're doing now. You'll be able to ask so many questions a month. Because every time that big, huge computer system runs, it costs us money. So if someone went in, who's the guy? There was a report about some company, they let all their people ask questions and use an AI and ended up costing them $500,000. What was it? $500 million?
$500 million in 1 month.
Yeah. So you have to pay for this. Now, folks, you need to understand that it's all isolated and quarantined on our servers, our system. These answers are coming from nowhere but my radio shows, TV shows, documentaries, conferences, Biblical Worldview Weekend DVDs. That's it. Highly isolated and quarantined. Okay. And it has cost us nearly $100,000 over the last year to pay for the programming, not just the programming, transcribing all of this and transcoding all this has cost nearly $25,000. I mean, that's actually a pretty good deal. You think about transcribing 36 years of content. We're talking about, what was it, Logan? Like 30,000 videos, 40,000, 50,000 audio recordings. It's been a ridiculous amount. So again, if you want to join, you can do that now. I hope you will, because we need to generate the revenue to pay for what we just did. So worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. The launch date is around July 1st. We'll keep you posted, but we're extremely excited. Logan, what do you think of it?
I think it's going to be great.
Let me ask you one more question. Who was John Dewey? It's thinking. There it is. Known as the father of modern education in America, he was an influential figure in American education and intellectual movements during the 20th century. Founded the Socialist Society of America, signed the Humanist Manifesto 1, traveled to Russia in the late 20s, 30s to study Marx's approach to education. There you go. Now, if you want more context, there it is. More on him. Where'd it come from? There's the different places. Well, I can tell right there. One of them is my book, Put Your Beliefs to the Test. And these here, I'm guessing, are radio shows, TV shows, etc. Brave Influence book. There you go. Fascinating. I'm excited. I hope you are as well. All right. Before we go to Annie and to Aharon Levarko, you know, we've been going through a lot of VHS tapes and a lot of DVDs and a lot of mini DVDs, a lot of Betacam and Beta SP. And the other day, I stumbled on a mini disc. I stumbled on it in a drawer. I'm normally better organized than that. And I'm shocked I found it. And what would you know? It was a video of me with my youth pastor, my junior high and high school youth pastor. And he came to Tennessee. He's done it several times. And we were out shooting skeet. We were shooting clay pigeons. And my beloved second lab, Summer, was with me. And you'll see her and hear her. So would you like to see me shoot some skeet tonight, guys? All right, roll it, Logan.
Relation Force, whatever that movie was with Gary Busey. Okay, pull.
Oh, okay, hold it right there. Right. Look at that, boom, boom. Just to any of the jihadis that think you might ever want to come here and fool with us, I would say no, probably not a good idea, right, Logan? Yeah. Now you think that's all he's got? That was just luck. But no, I don't think so. And folks, I saw this for the first time today. I remember going and doing this, but I don't remember how the shooting went. But for those boys in the control room, they saw it and they're like, it was just luck, Mr. House, Mr. B. I don't know. Let's see how the rest of it turned out, Logan, please.
All right. Pull.
I'm a little excited about that, if you can't tell. It's getting darker.
Oh, yeah!
I'm having a good time.
Pull.
I think I was enjoying myself, Logan. Have you ever gone skeet shooting with me, Logan? We've never gone skeet shooting. When you were a little kid, but you didn't shoot because you were little? Well, you and I should go do that. You know what the problem is, don't you, Logan? Get on mic. You know what the problem is, right, Logan? We don't have time. Yeah. I don't know. Part of me sometimes think I should go water skiing, hunting, skeet shooting, because I'm going to look back and say I spent all my time in that studio. I don't know. I'm divided because there's so many important things to talk about and do. But you're what are you, 22 now or 23? 23, and I've not taken you skeet shooting. I feel terrible. That's actually a horrible thing to have to admit. You went when you were a kid, but you're too little to do anything about it. All right, we're going to have to fix that over the next few weeks, Logan. And we'll take a camera. Thomas, you want to go? Sure? You don't sound very excited. Do it. There you go. And we'll bring a camera and we'll film it. What do you guys think? Let's do it. Bring the drone? Does it work? All right, let's do that. Well, there you go. I thought that was kind of fun. You don't have any more video footage of Summer running around out there like a mad dog, do you? She was barking and carrying on. I hate to tell you this, but it was probably a few months later, she went down in that very ditch and ended up drinking some water that had poison in it from the defoliant that came off the cotton field and got into the water. And I called her up to come get in the truck. Let's go. And she couldn't. She was down there, could not get up. She was paralyzed. She couldn't walk. And I rushed her to the emergency vet and she almost died. He's like, I don't think she's going to make it. But he pushed so many fluids through her and we just loved on her. And he said, the veterinarian said, this dog is fighting to live. She is fighting to live. And she was 5 years old. And her jaw was locked. Her tongue was hanging out. He's like, I just don't think it's going to work. But he said, I'm going to try for the sake of your family. And he pushed so many fluids on her. And we were there for several hours. We finally had to leave, go home, go to bed. I said, here's my cell number. I don't care what time of day it is. Call me. He called me pretty late in the night. And he said, she is up walking around. He said, this dog, aside from a miracle, this dog just willed itself to live. And he said, I've seen it in labs. They will will themselves to live. And sure enough, she had to go in and get pushed fluids on her every day. Every morning I would bring her in by 7:30. They'd keep her for the whole day, push fluids on her to clean her blood, and then pick her back up at night and pamper her and baby her. And did that for a week. And he said, I hope she goes on to live a long, healthy life. She lived to be 10, which is not too bad. But she ended up dying of a huge tumor in her stomach, which, of course, is probably related to that poisoning. And it finally popped and she bled out. But we put her to sleep before she bled out. But, yeah, that's her. That was actually did you know that's the ditch she took the water from, Logan? Yeah, that ditch. But that was her. She loved to chase those skeet and tennis balls. And she was an excellent hunter. We got footage we've showed everybody of her out pushing up quail and pheasant. That was my second lab. My first lab only lived to be about 6 months old. She died from muscle myopathy, bad breeding, and didn't go back to that. They were very good about it. They refunded my money, and I ended up getting Summer 2. I love the name Summer, and I was like, I'm not going to have a dog that lives 6 months named Summer. So I have Summer 1, and she died. I gave that name to Summer 2, who is the one you heard. I almost lost her. But anyway, yeah, I'm on lab number 6 now, Dolly, our studio dog. All right, there you go. All right, I haven't plugged anything as far as sponsors. I need you to go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We got a big show tonight, folks, and we need to keep this going, but I need your support. We got to bring in the capital, the funding, so we can build things like this powerful Bible worldview software you just saw, push out programming like this, send regular love offerings to Aaron. We need to be here to help you, to resource you, to answer questions, to help you understand the times, but we have to generate the funds to pay the bills, folks. So this is one way you can support us and your health at the same time. Squish for Life, that's the Numi with glutathione in it, Worldview Talk, satellite phones, bulletproof backpacks, solar generators, melissaprotein.com to boost your protein, to keep your muscle mass and your stability, worldviewwater.net, Gatatana, I drink it each and every day, half a scoop on Dolly's food. There's so much there. Bella Grace, I take that every day. 3 powerful ingredients. I got more hair on my head right now than I've had in years. I haven't taken a Pepsid since December 2023. And we had a lady that wrote in the other night that her husband, who's on international flights, is doing Bella Grace, Numi, and Gatatana, all 3. And he does not have the jet lag that he used to have as he would go through so many time zones. And she said every pilot should be on these 3. I read that to you the other night. We have so many positive results from our audience on these products. So again, please check them all out. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's get going. Joining me now is Anni Cyrus and our reporter on the ground in Israel, Aharon Levarko. Well, here was the headline earlier today. Trump says agreement with Iran approved by all parties involved, including Israel, cancels strikes. We dealt with it on radio and television today. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to say what I said today. The back and forth, the news, the deal, no deal, we're going to strike, we're not going to strike. It's wearing people out. And we're even hearing from friends of ours who are not political people. They don't really follow politics. They very closely. They follow it, but not super close. They're like, we're worn out. We're exhausted. And I said today on the radio and TV that this is not good for the presidency. It's not creating confidence in the presidency or President Trump, and it does damage to the presidency, and it does damage to us on a global scale. Well, right after I said that, then we saw this tweet come over. Here we go. Breaking, 2 Israeli officials tell me Jerusalem was taken by surprise by the president's announcement. According to one Israeli official, everyone's living off Trump's post right now. We need to hear what the Iranians announced before knowing whether the president's assessment is actually accurate. Experience suggests that's not always the case. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. This kind of behavior. And as I said today, do you think you would have seen this kind of behavior from Ronald Reagan, from JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis? No. And it's I don't know why his family doesn't tell him to stop it. We're getting quite a few emails today from people as well. I thought it was very interesting that one of our callers today said maybe the reason this is going on is because of his theology. He is into Paula White's worldview. And of course, we know that he was greatly influenced by his own admission by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I think it was, Doreen said, I keep thinking about the word of faith and the New Apostolic Reformation, speaking things into existence. Is Paula White's teaching helping him to manifest peace by believing and thinking it into reality? That's known as the law of attraction, the law of positive thinking. It's something the New Age movement does as well. So very interesting. And of course, that goes along with the idea of what the New Age calls harmonic convergence, the power of your mind. And someone else, Sharon, wrote in and said Donald Trump probably read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Same kind of concept. Wow. Well, I also said on TV today that on May 16th, I actually developed a PowerPoint slide that compared Donald Trump to King Nebuchadnezzar, because I was in that spot on the book of Daniel dealing with Nebuchadnezzar being judged by God for his arrogance and eating grass like an animal for 7 years. And then he acknowledged God, looked up to heaven and acknowledged God, was set free and was restored. And I pulled the slide out of the presentation because I'm like, well, maybe the audience, maybe the folks watching aren't ready for that yet. But in my mind, I've been thinking about some major comparisons between Donald Trump and King Nebuchadnezzar. Well, I pulled the slide out. I'm going to show it to you tonight. I got a text from a well-known Bible teacher in America, very well-known. If I said his name, a lot of you would know exactly who it is. And he texted me about, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, and said, when is God going to judge President Trump for his arrogance? I just don't think that God can allow this arrogance. The way he surrounds himself with these false teachers, the way they allow him to compare him to Jesus, other things he has said, while he's Christian friendly in many regards, then he says and does things that make you go, what is he talking about? The arrogance. No, I've never asked God to forgive me. I just try to do better. And these things, and you feel sorry for him at one level because he keeps talking about trying to earn his way to salvation. Well, that's not by works lest any man should boast. So I pray for President Trump and his salvation. But is President Trump, is God trying to get his attention? Some say, well, he's not going to do that because he's not a Christian. Well, the Bible does say whom he loves, he chastens, and God does chasten and discipline believers. But the Bible is very clear that he turns the heart and mind of the king as he wills. He allows kings to come up and kings to go down, and we see kings judged. So you don't have to be a Christian for God to discipline you or bring judgment. Discipline of a believer is different than judgment. Believers can be disciplined, and it can be hard and harsh and even taking of our life. The Bible says if your testimony is so poor, people have had their life cut short because of that. Don't come before the Lord's table in a manner of disrespect. It can cost you your life. Discipline is different than judgment. We saw Belshazzar judged, and there was absolutely no indication he was a believer. So don't confuse discipline of a believer with judgment. I don't know which Donald Trump is going through. I would think more along the lines of judgment and God trying to get his attention as he did Nebuchadnezzar, which is one of the comparisons. Joining me for all of this real quick is Aharon Levarko, our reporter on the ground in Israel, and Anni Cyrus. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brennan.
Thank you, Brennan.
Things are moving very, very fast. Give us the latest from your perspective, Aharon, particularly when your own government, apparently there are, this source inside Israel, and this guy's title is I guess he is a correspondent with the news group, I-24 News, diplomatic correspondent. And I really like I-24 News. I don't know what Israelis think of I-24 News, but as an American, I really like watching their website. I don't know if they're liberal, conservative, moderate, whatever. I don't know. But I don't know because their news seems to be pretty straightforward. So I really enjoy their channel. What do you know about I-24? And what do you make of this guy, Azrael, saying the Israeli officials heard about it through social media, and we have to wait to see what the Iranians say because we don't really know if we should take Trump seriously sometimes on his social media.
I-24 News are very credible. They're pretty centrist, but they are, they're factual and they try to stay centrist. But the article about President Donald Trump, where all the stations are pretty much reacting the same way as maybe you are in America, that it's kind of almost like a fake news. Like Donald Trump came out and said, the deal is pretty much wrapped up. That doesn't sound to me that it's been signed. Okay, and maybe that got people's hopes up. I'll tell you what it did do, Brannon. It helped the price of oil drop. So good for Donald Trump. He succeeded. That was one of his goals. We all know that. But you mentioned it, and I agree. As the president of the United States, as the chief in charge, in a way, it's a little reckless coming out with those statements, getting people's hopes up. And that's, of course, if you want a ceasefire. That's if you want things to stay the same. I don't know if the Iranian people want that to happen. Just a few hours ago, wasn't Donald Trump threatening Iran, saying that if we don't get a deal by tomorrow, I'm going to smash and I'm not going to quote the word he used, but he said, I'm going to smash the blankety blank out of Iran. And now it's all changed. This is very up and down, very unstable. And I don't know if people want that. I don't know if people like that.
No, they don't.
We don't like it.
No American likes it. Unless you're right. I don't know, unless you're a person who's in an abusive relationship and you like chaos and you crave chaos. But unless you're in an abuse, unless your brain has been conditioned to be in that kind of world through abuse or drugs, no, the average person, I don't think on any part of the planet wants to live with this kind of inconsistency and chaos. Annie?
Right. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Finish that.
Oh, the last thing I wanted to say is you were quoting someone earlier, Brannon, who said we're worn out and exhausted.
Yep.
And that is exactly the enemy's tactics.
Yep.
And it's happening. And we're going through that big time here in Israel. And I remember, I think it was General Flynn. He talks about when there is a war of attrition and a nation gets worn out, what happens is they end up turning on each other. They turn on their leaders, political, military, and that's exactly what's happening at home here.
Mm-hmm. And yesterday we had President Trump from the Oval Office praising the great leader Erdogan from Turkey, who's talking about taking over Israel and his Jerusalem, and is running around talking about building the Ottoman Empire back. But that's his great friend and strong leader and a quote blank of a leader. Again, I asked today, what's the last book you read, President Trump, cover to cover? I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But you need to read. You need to be like Ronald Reagan. You need to be like JFK. who are known for reading, and reading. And if you would do that, you'd understand, he says that Erdogan respects him. No, he does not. None of these Islamic leaders respect President Trump. That's a pretty blanketed statement, but I don't think they do. I think they look down at most all of them as infidels. What do you think, Annie?
I agree. They don't have any respect for Kafirs in general. They don't have any respect for free nations leaders. However, they have no problem using them when they're useful. And sadly, President Trump has been extremely useful since January of 2025, especially to Turkey, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. But one thing, I actually did email that to you. It is in Farsi, but the Fars News, which is pretty much the IRGC news, the Fars News has put out a statement since we were on radio, and now they're still saying there's no approval, there's no agreement, but they added an interesting point there on the very one before last paragraph where it says President Trump is trying to use his social media to create a narrative of Iran's backing down and they need this gap. The reality is apparently United States of America has agreed to go back to the 3 weeks ago items of the agreement, meaning they removed their newest demands of the deal. U.S. has agreed to remove their newest demands for the deal to make its way to the higher level for approval. I'm just giving information. I'm not saying they're telling the truth or not, considering we don't know any of the terms. This is the latest from their side, from IRGC side, stating that they haven't signed anything. However, they are considering to look into it since U.S. removed those absolute deal breaker items from the list. So we shall see.
Wow. All right. Let me go to the slide that I built on May 16th as a part of my series on the book of Daniel. I pulled it out because I thought, well, maybe the audience isn't ready for it. But here we go. I think the timing is now right. Side-by-side comparisons between President Trump and King Nebuchadnezzar. Aspect, great builders. Both are interested in great big projects and they are builders. King Nebuchadnezzar rebuilt Babylon into an ancient wonder. And then, of course, Donald Trump, he's known for his real estate empire, infrastructure, vision, large-scale developments. King Nebuchadnezzar and Trump, bragging, pride, Daniel 4:30. It is not this great Babylon that I have built for the glory of my majesty, said King Nebuchadnezzar. And of course, President Trump, we know, is known for frequently emphasizing his personal achievements and deal-making, et cetera, and how rich he is in the billions and et cetera. Aspect, love of gold and opulence. Well, head of gold in the dream when it was interpreted to Nebuchadnezzar by Daniel, you, O king, are the head of gold in that statue that we're dreaming about. And of course, we know that the king then erected a massive gold statue and wanted people to bow and pay homage to it. Of course, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said no and were thrown into the fiery furnace and God delivered them. President Trump, he's known for gold-plated properties, Oval Office decor, gold statue at Doral. Aspect, gold statue image, 90-foot gold image demanded worship, as we saw, and then the gold image. Logan, can we get a picture of that? The Don Colossus statue? Logan? Can we get a picture of that, Logan? And then the aspect, surrounded by advisors that are King Nebuchadnezzar had, magicians, astrologers, sorcerers. That's the occult. Hello, President Trump. Surrounded by Paula White and prosperity gospel figures who, in my opinion, that's steeped in the occult and the law of attraction, or the power of your words to create reality, also known as shamanism, which I write about in my book, Religious Trojan Horse. Aspect, attitude towards sin and forgiveness. There. Oh, is that the Golden Dawn Colossus? Where is that at? Is that in his Doral? No, not Doral. That's Miami. That would be at the Bedminster in New Jersey. It is at Doral in Miami. I had it right the first time. Huh. I don't know why I knew that, but it's probably one of those many news items that runs through my head, and I just happened to pull it out at the right time. Of course, the palm branches in the back were kind of a little bit hint now that I think about it. That's not New Jersey. But there you go, the golden statue. Don Colossus. All right. Attitude towards sin and forgiveness. King Nebuchadnezzar, initially unrepentant, but he was later humbled. How was he humbled? God made him like a wild animal, eating grass for 7 years and covered in the dew until he finally lifted up his head and acknowledged the one true God who is above all. In 2015, he made comments on forgiveness and later faith references. Logan, can we find the clip where President Trump says, no, I've never asked God to forgive me. I just try to do better. And that to me, folks, really frankly, is sad to me because on a personal level, I want President Trump to come to Christ. And then the constant comments about trying to earn his salvation are really sad, very sad for us because we want Trump to know the Lord. We want Trump to be successful. We want Trump to be a great leader, but he can't be a great leader if he doesn't humble himself and acknowledge a dependency upon God aside from words. And Nebuchadnezzar learned this, didn't he? And God restored his kingdom to him, by the way, unlike Belshazzar, who was taken out. Aspect, Gentile world ruler. First major Gentile ruler was Nebuchadnezzar in biblical prophecy. He was that head of gold in the vision of Daniel. God called him my servant, Jeremiah 27:6, and used him to judge nations. Trump, he's Gentile, non-Jewish leader, positioned as a global deal maker and influencer, and God allowed him to come to power. God allowed Obama to come to power. God could stop any of these guys from coming to power, but he allowed him to rise as a Gentile global leader, President Trump. That's another comparison between the two. And then aspect, empire and global influence. Nebuchadnezzar did. He built a vast Babylonian empire with dominant influence over the known world, influenced and enforced through loyalty across nations. And then, of course, we know President Trump has his board of peace, and he's chairman for life, according to the charter, overseeing Gaza reconstruction with billions pledged, IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor to reshape trade, peace, and international alliance. These are similarities I had. I built this slide, as I said, friends, on May 16th, 2026. I just didn't know if the audience was ready for it yet. I think they are now. Aaron, I know as a Bible man, this has got to be of great interest to you, does it not?
Yeah, absolutely amazing, the comparisons. Just a question for Anni. Anni, in Parsi, what's the word for confusion?
In Farsi, what's the word for confusion?
Yeah.
Geej.
Okay, because in Hebrew, it's Bavel, where we get Babel or Babylon. And it reminds me of what happened way back in Genesis 11, when the people were trying to build their way to heaven, and they said, let us make a name for ourselves. And of course, the Lord stepped in and confused. Isn't that what we're facing? Confusion. What's going on? Who is the Iranian leader? What Donald Trump has woken up today? You know, is it the tough Donald Trump? Is it the weak Donald Trump? I'm confused, Brandon. Yeah. You know, is he going to fire like he said 24 hours ago, or now he's happy he's called off the military? So this is an absolute confusion, and I'm just intrigued that Nebuchadnezzar, he comes from that place where God confused, and you know, the fact that he was humble, that pride, I'm telling you, the Bible is filled with scriptures. You know, it's considered one of the 7 deadly sins. It may not be morally as bad as rape or murder or, well, those two are bad enough examples. But in God's eyes, pride is a very serious issue. It even says God resists the proud. So I believe in the same way God chose Cyrus to fulfill his plans, God chose Pharaoh to fulfill his plans. I do believe Trump is the man of the hour, but that doesn't mean that judgment may come in the same way it came for Pharaoh. God used Pharaoh, but in the end, goodbye Pharaoh. All his horses and chariots and were drowned in the Dead Sea. So it's very confusing.
Yeah. In fact, Logan found that quote. Watch this. Here we go.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I don't think in terms of, I'm a religious person. It's a great book. But have you ever asked God for forgiveness? I'm not sure I have.
Wow.
Where's the one where he's asked about his favorite Bible verse? He talks about how she loves the Bible, but he can't give one Bible verse. And I'm not mocking President Trump. I just am not buying the, I'm a religious person, I love the Bible. Because if you love the Bible, you ought to be able to say at least one verse. Yeah, my favorite verse is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. I love that verse, and here's why. I mean, you ought to be able to quote one verse, at least, right? That's your favorite verse. I remember, Logan, I don't know if you can find it. It would be really interesting to play right now. Can you find the clip in our library where I'm interviewing on radio Dr. D. James Kennedy, who was famous for Evangelism Explosion? And I'm interviewing Dr. Kennedy on the anniversary, on the very week that President Reagan died, which I think the anniversary for his death just was in the last few days. And maybe June 4th or 5th, correct me if I'm wrong on that, Logan. But I was interviewing Dr. D. James Kennedy sitting in for Michael Reagan, Ronald Reagan's son. And I had the chance to interview, because of that, some folks that knew him, and I knew Dr. Kennedy. So I called him up and I said, would you be willing to come on and talk about your relationship with President Reagan? And if you can find it, Logan, in the interview, and I've played it on the air, Kennedy, D. James Kennedy says, when we met with President Reagan, I think it was then candidate Reagan, he wasn't president yet. And he said, I asked him, if you were to stand before this was the famous evangelism explosion question that Kennedy would have his people ask when they go out door to door. If you were to stand before the Lord tonight and he were to ask you, why should I let you into heaven, Mr. Reagan, what would you say? D. James Kennedy on that broadcast, we have the audio of it, said, President Reagan, or then candidate Reagan, put his face into his knees, bent all the way over, putting his face down into his knees. Said it felt like an eternity. And then he leaned back up and answered the question. Only because I've believed in the Lord Jesus Christ. Only because I've placed my faith and trust in him alone. Here's the first Trump clip. Watch this.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book. And you said, I think last night in Iowa, some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal. So I don't want to get into verses. I don't want to get into...
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite?
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like?
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal. I think it's just an incredible... The whole Bible is an incredible. I joke very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
Well, and I appreciate the fact he respects the Bible, and he's been all about religious liberty and freedom. I appreciate that. I just caught you laughing, Aaron. What?
I was amazed at how he got out of being cornered there. He was cornered big time, and he got out of it. And I mean, why someone who loves the Bible, wouldn't you just jump at the opportunity to talk about it?
Yeah, you would think.
Wait, I'm sorry. I was checking something. That's why I was quiet. Everything you've been saying is absolutely applies, and it's amazing. But let me remind the audience that we're also talking about the same person who enjoyed being compared to Jesus by White.
Paul White, yes, just at Resurrection Weekend this year.
His son pretty much said, "Me and my dad, we saved God." Remember that?
What?
Wait, did he say that, Logan? My dad and I, Don Jr. say that? My dad and I saved God?
We saved God. We saved Christianity.
Can you bring that?
It was very recent.
All right. Can you find that, Logan?
Was that Don? I think it was Eric, wasn't it?
Was that Eric?
I think it was Eric.
Yeah,
it was Eric who said it.
Are you on mic, Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah, get on mic. Can you find that, Logan?
I'm looking.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to my...
They are God's savior? Wow.
Yes. But the whole time I'm listening, by the way, I was sending some videos. We have taken it a step further. President Trump at the Oval Office, apparently, I just found it, but now he's saying deal is closed.
All right, let me go to that clip.
We're signed.
Let's go to that clip. I think we have another bookmark. We'll get to it and then go right to what you're talking about, Annie. Let's see, bookmark. All right, there it is. All right, here we go.
We have this amazing
watch and
piece
listen.
to destroy us, and yet here we are, and we have this amazing piece, deal on Charlie Kirk's birthday. I can't tell you how many things are lining up. I mean, think about the fact that this book came out on Charlie Kirk's birthday on the same day as we have peace in the Middle East. I mean, so many different factors are all coming together at once in the most unthinkable, unbelievable journey. You couldn't have scripted this. You could not, the wildest author could not have scripted this book and the trials and tribulations and twists and turns to get to where we are today. And look how much better humanity and our world is. We're saving Christianity. We're saving God. We're saving the family unit. We're saving this nation. I mean, DEI is out the window, Benny. I mean, you no longer have Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the next.
All right. We're saving God. Aaron?
We're saving Christianity. We're saving God. We're saving family.
All right. Well, there you go. If you want my little chart that I made May 16th, and I thought, I don't know if the audience is ready for it. Well, I think maybe you are now from hearing from you guys by email. So if you want to take a picture of it, there it is. Snap a picture of it right there. And we're gonna post it to Facebook, right, Logan?
Yep.
Okay. You'll put our logo on it? You should probably put our Worldview Tube logo on it so that it'll go everywhere, and then people won't know where it came from. We should probably put worldviewtube.com so they'll come back here if they want this kind of straightforward commentary. See, we don't play favorites. We don't kiss the ring. We don't play that game. We promised you guys we would never do that. Lord willing, we'll be here long after President Trump has left the White House, and we're not selling our credibility. We're not for sale. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that little graphic. And now let's go to what Annie was referring to. The latest from now did this come from the Oval Office in the last little bit, guys?
In the last, yeah.
So this is new.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And sorry, I sent 2 clips because that's how I received them, but you want to play them back to back probably.
These aren't the clips Annie sent.
No, they're not. You want me to? I can just play the clip she sent. They're probably the same clips, but I'll just play them. All right. Hold on. Let me go to email where she sent them to me.
Well, most likely the one Logan has is the same thing.
Oh,
it's
I'm
just
sure
his
it is.
announcement on.
Yep. All right, here we go. Here it is.
But we have a signing soon, and the documents are in pretty final shape. So we'll see. We'll see. Very good. Should be done. And that should be done pretty quickly. They want it every bit as much as everybody else wants it. I think a lot of good relationships.
Okay. And then the second clip, let's see.
Hang on, Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon. Did I hear correctly? He said it should be done soon.
Yeah.
And quickly.
And
the second one's going to tell you how soon. Let him play the next
soon. And yeah. So that doesn't mean it's done.
Mm-hmm. Here we go.
That the strait will officially open as soon as we sign, which could be soon, very soon, maybe over the weekend. In Europe, I won't be able to be there, but JD will be there, Vice President, and some of the people. Steve Woodcock did a great job, Jared. So we'll take some questions.
Well, there you go. Annie, this weekend?
In Europe, JD Vance is going to be there. Let's go. However, the key part is what he said on the first clip. They want it as much as anybody wants, which I take that confirming what Fars News put out of saying U.S. agreed to remove their extra demands to meet Iran's demands. I might be stretching that translation, but that's what I took out of his sentence of it's in the final stages. They want it as much as anybody else. And I think a lot of good relationship is going to come out of it. I think he's referring to what Fars News published a couple hours ago saying Iran is considering the deal now because Trump removed the extra demands he added a few weeks ago.
And now he's got more. Thank you, Logan. Now we got more on. Now we got more on Turkey. Hey, let's talk Turkey. Here we go.
And we're going to be talking to Turkey. President Erdogan is great. And it's really a wonderful thing with a lot of spirit. Pakistan was fantastic. The Prime Minister and I call him the general. He's a general. He's a great general. He's so great that he's actually a field marshal.
Is he talking about Erdogan?
No, he's talking about the Pakistan Prime Minister.
Pakistan president. Like, what is he talking about?
I'm so sorry. I don't know if Logan has told you, but
is your AC unit out or something in there, Annie?
Brandon, remember my HVAC died? So
I thought you got it fixed by now.
No, remember I just got one of those window units for my living room. This is the studio with the lights and the equipment, so I'm kind of melting. Yes.
You got to get a splitter. We got splitters. Did you get a splitter?
Well, hopefully I get enough paid subscribers on Substack to have that budget. Today, we don't have that budget. But I just want to say something that is, again, not mocking him, but some of us pick these up. The Prime Minister of Pakistan is not a general who's a great guy, who's a field marshal. They're two different people, President Trump, two different positions in the government of Pakistan. But that's all right. I'm sure they're both great people. You can call them both.
Wait a minute, he's talking about two different people and he's putting it into one person?
He said, the Prime Minister, he's so great. I call him general. He's so great. He's a field marshal. And I'm like, no, he is not. There are two different positions. J.D. Vance is a great guy. You can call him general, but he's not great enough to be the president. He's still vice president.
Oh, boy.
These are the times that it would be nice to read a couple of books or just have your staff tell you the structure of the organization and the government of countries you're going to praise. Just an idea.
Inside Wire is saying Iran's Fars News, quote, after the U.S. accepted Iran's proposed text, approval by Tehran appears likely.
That's the one you just put up. That was a longer Farsi version that I said, yes. Since U.S. approved Iran's proposal, meaning on the longer version, it says U.S. agreed to remove their extra demands from 3 weeks ago.
So, but the way they're spinning it is that the U.S. just accepted our proposal.
Yes, and that's what he just said as well. Listen to the clip again. It's at the final stages. It should be done soon. Or I should say they want it as much as anybody else does. I'll take that as confirmation of what Fars News said. When you say they want it as much as anybody else would, that's when you're saying that you gave them more than you were willing.
Okay, let's say that this deal actually gets signed. I don't think it holds. Do you, Annie?
I can't make that assessment because I don't even know what's in the deal. I'll make that assessment as soon as I know the items of the deal.
Aaron?
What are the agreements?
I'm slowly changing from being like Isaiah the prophet to Jeremiah the prophet. Isaiah was more optimistic. Jeremiah was very pessimistic. And I look, even if it's agreed, so what? Big deal. No, it doesn't matter. With jihadist Muslims, who cares? It's a piece of paper. So I'm very pessimistic. Whatever happens here, I don't see a solution coming from a negotiation table. And while it may stop the firing, maybe stop people getting killed, long term, this is not the way that I want to see it go.
Well, I really have to run, but think about this, everyone, including your audience. What if one of the terms of this agreement is the $12 billion released?
Yeah.
That's a great long-term strategy. I'm not saying it is. Nobody knows what's in
there. We got
there.
a great deal.
Oh, that is wow. Can I have a copy of that, please? Oh, that is so good.
Oh.
Very good.
That's hard to look at, to be honest.
Not for me. But then again, that's just me. Brian, if you don't mind, I'm going to hop off.
Hurts.
Thank you, Annie. Annie's liveuptofreedom.substack.com. What do you make of that picture, Aaron?
Well, I just said sometimes truth hurts, and it hurts me to look at it.
Yeah.
So
well, it goes along with this right here. Did President Trump really send $3 billion to the Islamic Republic of Iran? Surely he would never do something like that, would he? Robert Spencer. And he goes on to talk about it. And sure he would. Trump is now avid to make a deal with the Islamic Republic that will bring down gas prices, allow him to claim victory and finally get the Nobel Peace Prize he so desperately covets. He is drawing red line after red line for the leaders of the Islamic Republic and then allowing them to cross those red lines with impunity. He has ordered Israel not to retaliate to Iranian strikes and shrugged off Iranian violations of his ridiculous ceasefire as unimportant, signaling for Tehran and all the world that he lacks the will to fight or give anything to the leaders of Iran's Islamic regime if they'll just let him play peacemaker. So why not $3 billion? Robert Spencer.
Brandon, if what we're seeing is truly capitulation by Donald Trump, and I'm still not 100% convinced that it is capitulation, I still want to believe that he has a strategy that we don't know about. There's secret plans. I'm still got a little bit of hope that there's some kind of deception that he and his team and the CIA and the Mossad and Bibi, but if not, if he is simply capitulating, then he's selling his soul. He's selling America's soul. He's selling the Iranian people's soul. And it reminds me of, we were talking before about Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar ended up eating grass. He ended up being almost isolated from basic humanity. And when you sell people's souls, in a way, you sell your own soul. And I would hate to think that that's what Donald Trump is doing. And I know that sounds far-fetched, but if he's trying to hang on to his image, his figure, his position, his macho pride, if that's what he's trying to do, then we need to pray even more. And that's what I really feel strongly, Bren. We need to pray. There's no other solution here. That he needs the hand of the Lord to intervene 100%. On his behalf. But,
look at this headline. Iran threatens Elon Musk's Gulf area Starlink ground stations in suspicious timing ahead of SpaceX IPO. Did you know that he has all these ground stations in Israel, Qatar, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman? Wow. And there is
to some degree I knew, but I didn't know he had it all in those areas.
Me neither. Yeah, exactly. Let me go to another story before we get ready to wrap here. Here's one from the guys over at investigativeproject.org. Greece thwarts Hamas terror cell bent on Israeli targets. The Islamist terror group Hamas has been regrouping by relocating its operations to Europe and activating sleeper cells. On June 6th, Greek authorities arrested a Hamas terrorist operative, a famous tourist resort on the island of Crete. The suspect was preparing a deadly attack on Israeli targets with the declared goal of putting Hamas back on the map. You heard about this, Aaron?
I did, Brennan, and thank God and thank Bibi for making a three-way deal with Cyprus and Greece about a year and a half ago. They obviously had some intelligence going on, but it's also connected with natural resources like gas and trade off that part of Europe. So Israel, Greece, and Cyprus have a very, very strong alliance politically and militarily, which includes counterintelligence. So thank God for that.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, wow. Here we go. Now I think we know the inspiration. Here we go. Here we go. Let me redo this, Logan. Hang on one second. All right. Go to it, Logan. There we go. Mm-hmm. Some of you aren't familiar with that Michael Jackson video, probably, but there you go. Whenever Trump sees the stock market going down, yep, we can't go to war. Can't have war. Let's see. One final one. Gatestone Institute. Qatar. Trump administration making states that sponsor terrorism great again. Qatar is the top funder of terrorism worldwide, even more than Iran. Yudi Levy, a former senior official at Israel's Mossad spy agency who dealt with economic warfare against terrorist organizations, said that, I guess, back in April of 2024. It was disclosed last week that Qatar has been funding U.S. institutions of learning for years with donations amounting to more than $400 billion. Those were just the ones for which there were receipts. Qatar also hosts the forward headquarters of the U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, at the Al Udeid Air Base, in addition to a recent promise from the Trump administration to defend the emirate if it is attacked. It is hardly a secret that Qatar is no friend to Israel. Qatar has been called a genocidal anti-Israel propaganda machine. After Trump leaves office, will Qatar be one of the new launch pads from which to try to eliminate the Jewish state? During the first Trump administration, the U.S. warned Israel that security cooperation with the U.S. could be reduced due to a deal signed with China's Shanghai International Port Group to operate a new terminal at Haifa Port, where the U.S. Navy ships often dock. How come the U.S. does not have the same concerns with Qatar? Again, Gatestone Institute, Trump administration making the states that sponsor terrorism great again. What are your thoughts on this, Aaron?
Well, Brandon, this is a classic example of what's called economic jihad, where they fund 400 million would be bad enough, but you said 400 billion.
That's right.
And the effects has brought down, not totally, but it's brought down the United States and their universities. And by the way, someone told me the other day that the mayor of New York's father was one of the lecturers at Columbia. And that was funded by the Qataris. So this is a classic example of economic jihad. And I quote, economic jihad refers to the use of economic means such as fundraising, investment, or boycotts to advance ideological, religious, or political goals, often framing these actions as a religious duty. It encompasses both militant efforts to fund terrorism and peaceful, community-focused initiatives designed to strengthen Muslim economies, ensure financial independence, and support specific causes. And lastly, sending hundreds of millions, billions of shekels to universities in the USA to help change and shape philosophies. It's shocking. And they did it right under the noses of the authorities, of the people. They infiltrated, but have people woken up to it? You know, it's Paul in 1 Corinthians 15, he quotes a verse. He says, unless the shofar is sounded loud enough, the people will not rally. I don't know if the shofar is being blown loud enough, Brandon.
Indeed. Indeed. Aharon Levarko, and you're going to be here in the States in July, right?
Yes, hopefully. It's like picking a daisy. He loves me not. I'm going not. we're going to fire on Iran. We're firing on. I don't know. I'm up and down. It's like the.
Wait a minute. He just did
Hebrew
6-7, Logan. He just did 6-7.
I did.
Logan, did you see that? Uh-huh. All right. The kids are laughing and thinking Aaron is super cool now.
Well, I hope to make it, Brandon. Anything can happen in the meantime. And like I said before, the Hebrew word for Babylon, Bavel, means confusion. And I'm a little confused at the moment. That's why I need to pray more.
Well, we all do. And we all do. And we all have to work on different things in our life, whether some is gluttony, some is materialism, some is pride, some is anger. So none of our comments tonight are to say that we have all arrived. I don't know about you, but I'm still in the sanctification process as well. I'm a practicing Christian. I'm still practicing. I'm still trying to practice.
What's the term? I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a doctor. What does he do? He practices medicine. He's still practicing, right? You just hope you're not one of his most recent and newest tests.
You know, one of my favorite verses, Brandon, is when the Lord said, "It's not the healthy that need a doctor; it's the sick."
Yeah.
And recognizing that we all still need help gives us a lot of hope.
Yep. Well, pray for President Trump. Pray for his salvation, because again, we want him to be. We did show some comparisons between him and Nebuchadnezzar, but let's pray that it finishes the way it did with Nebuchadnezzar. That God, he looked up and was restored.
Yeah.
I think there's reasons to believe that Nebuchadnezzar actually became a Christian. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think there's actually reason to believe because of the things that he said about the Lord after that.
Yeah.
And the proclamation that he put out after that.
Yeah. He acknowledged the Most High. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? I mean, there's a lot of people I want to sit and talk with in heaven, but can you imagine sitting and talking with people like Nebuchadnezzar? Tell me about this. Let's go through the whole story. Let me get my Bible out. All right, let's go through this. You had this dream. Tell me about Daniel. You know, can you imagine?
I want to hear what he went through when he was out eating grass.
I know, right?
What was he going through?
Did you know you were out of your mind? I mean, 7 years. You were eating grass for 7 years. Did you know you were out of your mind, or was it not until you lifted up your head? Which he must have had somewhat of his mind, because he knew enough to lift up his eyes into heaven and to declare what he did, which brought back his sanity and restored his kingdom. Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine? We're going to have all of eternity to talk with these Bible characters.
Yeah, was it Nebuchadnezzar or was it Belshazzar who looked in and saw not 3 but 4 men?
That was Nebuchadnezzar, and he saw into the furnace, and there was a fourth like a son of the gods.
I want to hear that story.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear him talk about that.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the translations are, people say it was like the Son of God, and people thus use it to say that Jesus was in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But the actual translation is like a son of the gods. Because remember, they believed he was a polytheist. He believed in many gods. So I think it was more than likely Michael the archangel that was in there with them. And in my study, I show how Michael the archangel from the scripture, and I give several references, appears to be a defender of the Jewish people and the Jewish state and the Jewish people particularly. So I think Michael the archangel is specifically placed over the nation of Israel for protection. Which would make sense. He was in there with those 3 Hebrew boys, right? Those 3 young men.
Absolutely. And when the Lord said to Daniel, the prince of Persia has resisted.
Yep, it was Michael the archangel that came and relieved him.
Yep, yeah. So that's good to know. That's a good reminder.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? There you go, folks. Aharon Levarko. And if you want to book him to speak at your Bible study, your Christian school, your homeschool group, your church, lighttothenationsministry.com, lighttothenationsministry.com. Get him booked up. He'll be here in the States, Lord willing, July and August. We look forward to having you back here at this news desk as well, Aaron.
I'm looking forward to it as well, Brandon.
Us as well. Aharon Levarko checking in. And if you appreciate Aaron, folks, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. We send him regular love offerings. We just sent him one the other day because a workman is worthy of his hire. And he spends a lot of time reporting for us and making videos for us. We got some more to play tonight, by the way. So we want to support Aaron. So as we support Aaron, you support us. So we have the funds to support not only Aaron, but to support you by bringing you news and information through the lens of a Christian worldview and through Bible prophecy. Again, we want to help you, but we need you to help us help you. We want to be here to serve you, to resource you, to give you information, to help you understand the times, to know how to rightly think about the issues of the day. So we have solutions. We have answers as we go to the Bible and as we go to our experts that we interview, many of them who are very strong Christians. So if you appreciate that, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. We'll be right back, and we're going to be joined here next by Peter McIlvena to check on what's been going on in Ireland, Belfast, and what's going on with King Charles and digital IDs and so much more that's moving quickly in Europe. Peter McIlvena from London up next. Don't go away.
Take a look at the water you just poured. It looks clean. It tastes fine. But what's really in it? Lead, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, pesticides, PFAS forever chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria. Every single day, these toxins flow straight from your tap into your glass, into your family. It's time for Sentry H2O from Worldview Water. Sentry H2O is the ultimate water treatment technology, designed to remove harmful toxins, balance your water's pH, and enrich it with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium, the way nature intended. From commercial-scale systems to whole-house filtration to crisp, delicious drinking water right at your kitchen sink and shower, Sentry H2O delivers cleaner, healthier water everywhere you need it. And here's the best part. It installs in just 15 minutes. No plumber, no tools, no plumbing knowledge required. Perfect for homes, apartments, rentals, RVs, refrigerators, and more. Because everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water, including you, including your family. Visit worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net. And discover what truly clean water can do for your health.
Joining me now is Peter McIlvena from Great Britain. Hello, Peter.
Ronan, good to be with you.
You too, my friend. We are still carrying his broadcast, aren't we, guys? All right. When does it air? Do you guys know? Saturday and Sunday at 3 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 3 p.m. Central. Why are we not carrying him 5 days a week? He's got plenty to talk about. Does he broadcast 5 days a week? Do you, Peter?
3 days a week. Haven't managed 5 days, so I'm in your coattails, Brannon, trying to get to that point.
Well, we would gladly take you 5 days a week as much as you got going on. Logan, let's pick up all 3 days if he'll let us. Oh, there's so much happening in your country. We got to get to, of course, Ireland, which is not far away from you guys at all, right? But first, I gotta get your response to this because it's been a few months since we've talked. This has been going viral. Watch and listen. I know you've seen it.
My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
Wow. The guy that would, if he wasn't so old, would be on my short list to be the Antichrist, sitting on a throne with a crown, one of the kings, right out of the book of Daniel and Revelations, wanting to go to a mark of the beast, it sounds like. But I think King Charlie might be a little old. I still haven't taken his son off the short list in my theological opinion. His son is just as radical as he is he not?
Oh, he is. William is just as bad. He's just younger, and therefore is more dangerous because he's got longer to live. But he's just as woke as Prince Charles, as King Charles, as Charlie is. There's nothing, and of course, they're not Christians at all. Never expressed any desire to understand Christianity. So, there's nothing good about either of them. So when it passes to William, it is no better.
Do you think the Queen was a believer?
Yeah, the Queen, she more or less and she kept her feelings to herself. This was what marked her over as a proper monarch, that she wasn't there for fame, she wasn't writing letters, she wasn't doing interviews. She actually was there as a sounding board for world leaders, and the amount of US presidents, UK prime ministers, world leaders that she met with behind closed doors, and that was private, and they knew it was private, they knew it wouldn't be leaked, because that's not the person she was. She was there to offer her advice because of her experience, because of her God-given longevity, and she did that exceptionally well. I don't think she did a single interview. No, she did the Christmas broadcasts every year, and more or less all of certainly the recent one, the last 10 years of her life, she talked about her faith in Christ. She talked about the story of Jesus. She talked about why that was central to her. So she marked herself out quietly in the English tradition of quiet personal faith, not a brash, bold, aggressive faith. But no, she was certainly a believer, and I think she struggled with her family not following in those footsteps. But again, we have had a huge sea change in Britain from when the Queen Elizabeth II died. That was the end of any Christian leadership in the UK. The Church of England is completely woke and apostate church. We don't have any Christian leadership with our parliamentarians. I don't think any leader of any political party is a Christian, none of them, and none of the MPs who maybe go to church on Sunday would ever admit it. I mean, there in the US, you've got politicians that talk about going to church on Sunday. That's kind of a norm. That's kind of what you do. As a Christian, you meet with other believers. That's normal. We're called to do that. Don't forsake the meeting together with your brothers and sisters in Christ. And yet, even if someone was a Christian member of Parliament, they would be embarrassed to say that because they'd be ridiculed as an extremist, far right, probably a danger to Britain, and that would be the end of any career they have in politics. So, Brandon, we are so different in our worlds, separated just by a little bit of water, and we are a warning to you: when you abandon Christian leadership in all of your entities, then it's God's grace that holds back his wrath only.
Amen to that. Let's talk about your ID bill. I mean, you guys, we just heard the King Charlie, talk about it, but we've got other leaders over there that are really pushing this idea for digital ID. Now, they're going to bring it in under the guise of protecting the children. I mean, when have these guys ever been interested in protecting children, right? I mean, you've got pedophiles running around unpunished all over the world. You've got LGBTQ, drag queen hour. You've got here in the U.S., men in women's locker rooms. I don't know what goes on over there. I'm pretty sure the same agenda is going on over there. But all of a sudden now they're letting Islam rise. You have child brides in Europe, I'm sure, with Islam, the same way we do here. So, but all of a sudden they're interested in the children. I'm not buying it. So the guise is, hey, we need digital ID to protect children from social media. You know, oh, it's for the children. I don't buy it for 1 minute.
No, we have all those issues and more, Brannon, and we'll not go into each of them because each of them are showing themselves. But simply the case of ID, it was kind of brought in on the basis of, as our social media restrictions are brought in on the basis of children's welfare, protecting children. But that is completely separate. You cannot say a piece of legislation or a bill is for protecting children, but it encompasses everyone in society. That does not make sense. Legislation is always targeted at a particular group or a particular time or a particular issue. It's never wide-ranging. Now, of course, we've had the online safety bill. Europe had the Digital Services Act, which was the biggest restriction since the internet started in Europe and the UK. That gives the government a lot of controls. Thank God for the US administration pushing back on some of the backdoors the UK government were demanding with tech companies. And I know certainly JD Vance was very vocal against that and managed to get some of that stopped. But now we're moving towards digital ID, and Australia are much more advanced in this. They've, again, specifically pushed a digital ID in terms of protecting children, and then stopping children's access to social media. And I know the admin Trump, I think 2 days ago, told the British government, don't dare do this. And of course, that's a separate question with balancing, should children have full access to the internet or not? There are areas you need to protect them from, of course. But in the UK, digital ID has now been rolled out for everyone. So if you're a business owner, you now need to be part of, I think it's the One Pass or the One something, not the One World Government as yet, but the One something, and you log into that, and that is your one gateway for everything. That is your digital ID, and they're just rolling that out in the last few weeks. Basically, if you're a business owner, when you re-register, you'll have to do this, and that is how they're forcing everyone. If you're a business owner, if you don't do this, then you don't have your business. You cannot have it registered with Companies House. You cannot pay tax, and therefore you cannot run your business. So it is very specific, targeted, and of course the awful figure behind a lot of this push has been Tony Blair, and he has been desperate for this for decades, back since he was Prime Minister in the 90s. He is pushed for this, and we're now seeing it come to pass, and it's hugely and there's little that people can do to push back. If you're told, do this, or we shut down your business, you lose your livelihood, you're destroyed. And we now have a further step with the tax system. It used to be you have to fill out your tax system, filling out by paper. You'd write down all your expenditures, your income, you'd submit that. Then it was over online. You couldn't do it, or you could do it by paper, but you had to do it 3 months earlier. Instead, you went online, you filled in all the boxes, you submitted each section, you saved, filled out each page. Now they're moving towards something which gives which is using AI in terms of how the tax authorities get information, and they have now got full access to bank accounts. They can now look and they can check. They can take the money out directly without you filling out paperwork. It is so dangerous where we're going to full control of the government on every aspect of life. But of course, this all boils down to, as you mentioned, Brannon, let's protect the children. Who can argue against that? Therefore, it all comes in legislation.
All right, let's switch over to what's going on in Belfast, Ireland. Of course, by now, we have all seen this horrific video footage of a man, I guess, who is from the Sudan, is what we're being told, trying to behead this guy, it looks like. And yet, we also have heard reports that this man, the one that's being held down there and slashed, was a neighbor and trying to help him move in. Is this, again, another example of social justice gone wrong?
So there are all different aspects to this. Northern Ireland is a monoculture. When I moved from Northern Ireland to London, I thought I was moving from Northern Ireland to England. Little did I know that actually London is not English in any shape or form. It's a very mixed city. So, and you're seeing some of the pictures of the anger against what is happening. People should be angry. That doesn't mean you resort to violence, but people should be angry, and people feel trapped because there is not a political outlet for their anger, because no one gives a damn about mass immigration, literally. And we are 3 years away from general election in 2029. So there's literally nothing that people can do. That's why they have resorted to violence. And that's one of the buses in Belfast on fire. And there have been 2 nights of violence. But it goes back to this individual, worked in the health service, was a radiographer, I think, worked in one of the hospitals in Belfast, was obviously lived on the street with this individual from Sudan who had entered the country and then pleaded asylum.
Wait a minute, he lived on the street? They were both homeless?
No. On the same road, on the same street they live. So not no.
Yeah.
We're getting our terminology
exactly
mixed up.
The terminology in America and where you are not the same. So sometimes we have to stop. Okay, so they were neighbors, and I hear that the man that was being knifed there was trying to help him. Correct?
Well, that's what we've read. Now we're trying to get information, but that's what I read. The individual, the man working for the NHS, lived in Northern Ireland, I think born in Northern Ireland. He was held down by this individual who originally was reported to be Somalian. Then I realized he was Sudanese, trying to cut his head off. And very few outlets in the media talk about an attempted beheading. They talk about an attack. They talk about attempted murder. Actually, if someone's running around, murder is one thing, and that's horrendous. But if someone is trying to chop someone's head off, that is a level of brutality that actually we don't understand in the West. It is alien, and that's the terminology that's being used by some of the good MPs, saying this culture is alien to us. This is not what we do. Maybe you do that in some countries. This is not what we do. And of course, Northern Ireland being, I think, 97% white, white British, white Northern Irish, Republic of Ireland, or English, 97%. So Indigenous, 97%. Then you go to somewhere like London, it's 53%. Even Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland, is 93% white ethnicity. So it's we talk about that simply to understand if people are born in that country, the vast majority, over 90%, are born in Northern Ireland. That's where they're from. You go to London, 53% are actually still white British. And then you've got the other aspect of Northern Ireland being a deeply Christian country, despite all the troubles we've had. And we've had over 3,000 people were murdered in the Troubles. That tension between England and Ireland between 1969 and 1994. And I grew up in that, having bombs going off, airport style security on every shop, having tanks on the end of some streets. That was kind of the norm. But we now have peace. But despite that, the underlying current in Northern Ireland is a strongly Christian conservative country. I think just under 90% of people in Northern Ireland say they are Christian. In Belfast, it's 83% say they're Christian. Now, if you go to England, you've got under 50%, I think it's 47% call themselves Christian, and London's 40%. And of course, the change is Islam rising up. So in Belfast, you've got 1% of people in Belfast call themselves Muslim. In London, it's 15%, so it's 15 times more. So you've got these clashes of cultures of what is the vision for society, what do we want as a social fabric for our nation, and Islam sees things very differently in how it treats women, how it treats non-Muslims, etc., etc. Freedoms that it allows. You're born into Islam, you don't have the right to move away. But all of these clashes. So in Northern Ireland, it's still not normal to see people not from Northern Ireland, from other cultures. And that's why it's the angry people. We've had 2 nights of rioting. Tuesday night, there were 250 call-outs for the emergency services. We normally have 30 on a night in Northern Ireland. So 250 call-outs, 10 times the amount. Last night was, I think, 60. So it's dropped down. The violence is more in some areas. It's not everywhere. The vast majority of people are not participating in that violence. But it shows the frustration. What do you do if there's no political solution to your culture being changed? And Northern Ireland are seeing it at a much slower rate, but they're beginning to see it, where England have completely gone in many areas and adopted multiculturalism, rejected the indigenous nationality of Englishness. Then what do you do if your politicians aren't listening, if your elections are in 3 years and the doors are open and every foreigner is flooding into your house? I cannot condone, but I can understand the sheer frustration of people. And of course, the danger in this is, the issue is, the backlash against a attempted murder. The issue is not why did that individual get in? What are we doing? Mass immigration? How are we checking people? That becomes the non-question because the focus is on the violence. That is the worry, and all the politicians are talking about this violence. My worry is there will be clampdowns on freedoms because of what we've seen. So in one way, it's difficult to see whether this has been orchestrated by the government to actually introduce legislation to stop our freedoms. It becomes quite complex, but I won't even delve into that 5D chess. But simply, people's anger, someone being murdered, attempted murder on the street, attempted beheading, and here where I'm in London, Brandon, sadly, we're told it's part and parcel of living in the city, knife violence. And regularly outside schools, we have people running around with machetes or stabbings. Northern Ireland, that's not the norm. It is a closed society. It's a traditional society. It's a conservative society, strongly Christian society. That's not the norm. Communities are tight-knit, where you come to London and actually no one knows their neighbour anymore. Where Northern Ireland is still, you go and bring milk or sugar for a cup of tea next door. You still got that connection with your neighbourhood, which is what ideally we want in our societies, because that keeps communities close-knit and keeps them safe. But we've lost that certainly in much of the rest of the UK. So what you're seeing is water cannons being used on the crowd. Strangely, water cannons are illegal in England, Scotland, and Wales. But hey, if you're in Northern Ireland, we can blast you to oblivion with a water cannon. That's perfectly legal. How is it allowed for people in Northern Ireland to use that and yet not in England? And we have that disparity, that two-tier policing really is what we've seen, where people in Northern Ireland are treated differently. But I see the violence, it will die down. We will have the third night tonight. I don't think we'll see mass violence. But again, what are the people do? If you're not being listened to, there is a valve which breaks at some point, and that is what we are seeing, sadly. And I do hope that common sense politicians listen and begin to have a proper conversation of mass immigration, but I'm not keeping my fingers crossed, Brandon.
Now, you lived there for a while?
I was born there. I was born probably what you're showing, probably born, well, in the hospital I was born in was probably a mile from the street you're showing. And then I grew up in the Republic, but back up to Northern Ireland. So where I lived was probably 10 miles away from the scenes you're seeing.
And you live in
North
London
Belfast. Now? I'm in London now, yes.
Now, why would you want to live in London versus Northern Ireland? If Northern Ireland is better than London, why would you not go back home?
That is a good question. It boils down to where God calls us, Brandon. God just takes us to places and we go with it. We don't always ask questions. We pray and we go through open doors. And God brought me to London because of the church I'm part of, that I had been to the church, loved it, and actually came here, and everything else fell into place. If you go somewhere, find a church that you can be part of, and everything else will fall into place. And that's what I did 24 years ago. But I go back there once, twice a year. All my family, a lot of friends are there. So I talk to them about what is happening, these tensions. But you're right. When you look at the schools, even you've got many of the teachers are Christian teachers. There's a strong Christian ethos throughout the education system, where in England the government are trying their hardest to remove any semblance of Christian teaching in the schools, and you've got very few Christian teachers, yet in Northern Ireland it's very different. So you've got Christians in many parts of society, and Brandon, that's what we want. We want Christians to be engaged in the public sphere. We want Christians to be engaged in every area of society, whether it's being a teacher, whether it's being the police, whether it's working in the local shop, whether it's in politics, whether it's in sport, whether it's in media. And Christians are deeply involved and standing up for Christ. And that's why I see more hope for Northern Ireland than I do elsewhere. They haven't accepted and bought this woke ideology. They haven't accepted this Islamization, which most of the UK have accepted. They have held out against that, despite huge pressure from the government to bow the knee to that cultural Marxism that we are seeing. So they have held, but again, it's it's anger whenever people come into your community that actually don't value life, which is what we see for many Islamic countries that treat life very differently.
Well, last night I said I'm concerned that some of these people, all dressed in black, they look a little bit like Antifa types, and I said I have to wonder if this isn't people coming in who are not even from the area, that these are the bad actors. And I said last night the same thing you said. I just said, look, they're going to take this normal freedom of protesting, which some are doing with no violence. Then you add in the violent people, and that will be used to clamp down more laws, more government. And so I said this could backfire. And that's the same thing you're saying tonight as well. Yeah, it's very...
In Northern Ireland is tricky because Northern Ireland, although we have peace and have had peace since 1994, you've got that undercurrent of the paramilitaries of the IRA and the UDA and what we had for 30 years in violence. And that is kind of still under the surface. It's much reduced, but you've still got some people that want to go back to those violent days, that want to go back to a lot of it was about drug running and protection money and enforcing yourself. And there are some people that want to go back to that. And of course, you see things like this happening spark off frustration, and that is jumped on board and used to their advantage to come out in violence. So a lot of people you've seen in black with balaclavas, that kind of is what we were used to in Northern Ireland for decades. And those individuals are happy to jump on that and be part of violence. But that is not what most people want. And you're right, it is those bad actors. A lot of them from those communities that maybe haven't transitioned to peace. We're used to doing drugs, doing punishment beatings, protection money, and now you've got a peace dividend that people want a better way of life. But there are still people that want to drag Northern Ireland back against the wishes of the vast majority of people. So I think this will be curtailed, violence will drop down, but where does that leave the ordinary law-abiding individual who's angry at the changes they're seeing in their society?
Now this guy that almost had himself beheaded was trying to help this guy reportedly from Sudan. It sounds very similar to what was going on in Israel with the kibbutz, where they were trying to help the Palestinians on the other side there in the Gaza, letting them come in through a gate or a cut in the fence and work in their gardens and pay them. And here these more liberal Jewish folks doing the whole social justice interfaith thing. That sadly ended very badly for them. And I think it woke a lot of people up that you can't find common ground between Judaism and Islam, Christianity and Islam, a free society and Islam. And here, if this narrative, if this story is true, that this man was trying to help this guy from Sudan and he's the one that turned on him, I mean, it's another example. And why he would turn on him, I don't know. I do remember, it had to be close to 30 years ago, 25 years ago. Probably 30 years ago, I was at a conference and a man came up to me after our Worldview weekend. He said, I have a Muslim guy in my community that I have been witnessing to and trying to bring him to Christ. And I've done a lot for him. I've done so much to help him. And one day we are driving in the car and I'm driving and he's in the passenger seat. And I said to him, what are you going to do when the day comes they declare jihad? And he said he didn't miss a beat. He turned to me and he said, the first thing I'm going to do is come to your house and kill you. That's what he said. I said, you got to be kidding me. You're joking, right? He said, no, he didn't miss a beat. That was his first answer. And here I was trying to help him. That never left me. And that story, again, has to be close to 30 or 30 years old. He didn't.
And I've heard, Brandon, I've heard that story repeated here in London. Two good friends of mine, very involved in Islam work, politically, engaging publicly, debates, research, all of that. And we just had a big conference, 400 people in London for 3 days, looking at Islam with a lot of the training the teachers of the teachers. And we had some very high level people there. And two of the speakers there, they've told me the same thing over the years, that they have gone for a cup of coffee, cup of tea with those people they debate with regularly in London, a speaker's corner, and then they go out after and they're kind of in each other's faces in speaker's corner. Then they go when they've actually known each other for years. And that they've told me, both of them, that they've had that response before, that you look, we're great friends, but when the call comes, you'll be the first person that I come and slice your throat. So that's not really friendship, and most Christians have no idea that is the 1400-year hatred that Islam has against Jews and Christians. There's nothing we can do to change it. That's why we have to be as wise as serpents going into this. We have to understand what God is calling us to do and be aware of people's intention, because everyone is not as loving as we may think. So yeah, I kind of agree with that story you heard, Brandon, and I think that is the norm, because a Muslim's ideology, their commitment is to Islam, and whenever it calls for them to actually remove others, then they will do that without a heartbeat, as you said.
Let's talk about Nigel Farage. You say you don't really have a candidate, you don't have a movement. I mean, I see today over at Breitbart, a party of workers, Farage calls on trade unions to join Freedom UK party. I saw an article earlier today where he said he believed that most of the people in the street are nonviolent, but there are a few bad actors out there that are stirring this up. Where is he on this whole thing as far as starting a movement and helping people? Does he have any more plans of running for prime minister or anything? Look, here we go. Farage, Belfast beheaders shouldn't have been in the country. Legitimate protesters fearful and want action on migrant crime. And he's condemning, of course, the bad actors. So where is he as far as being a leader of this movement?
So that's a big question. So Nigel is projected to be Prime Minister in 2029. That's kind of where the polling is. Reform UK, his party are like 10, 12, 13 points ahead of the Labour Party at the moment. And the Conservative Party are kind of in third place. And you worked
closely with him, right? I mean, you guys were like good friends. You worked really closely with him, right?
I have worked closely with him in the past a long time, but I have, yes. Our paths would have split in terms of understanding Islam and responding to that, where Nigel is much more cautious. And I get that. I mean, he's maybe smarter than I am.
So he's more of a politician. He's more of a politician when it comes to Islam.
Well, yes, but also as a Christian, I realize the spiritual clash and the spiritual battle we're in. He is not a Christian and doesn't get that. So when someone is not a Christian, you have to understand they don't see things as we see them. They don't see things as the Bible teaches. Therefore, they're trying to make sense of this crazy world
like
without any reference point.
Donald Trump.
Yes.
Donald Trump doesn't get it, right? And I got an article over at worldviewreport.com today. Let's see if it's posted yet, but it was about Donald Trump making, here it is. Let's see. Over at Gatestone by Robert Williams. Qatar, Trump administration making states that sponsor terrorism great again. And it's talking particularly about Qatar. So President Trump, Nigel Farage, yesterday, thank you, Logan. Yesterday, he's at the Oval Office Resolute desk saying that Erdogan, he's his good friend. He's a good leader. He's a strong leader. We're good friends. I'm like, the man is talking about taking back Jerusalem, for Pete's sake. And I think that's what the question was about. The reporter was asked, he's like, well, I don't think I've heard that. I would have to make a phone call and ask him what's going on. I'm like, okay, maybe you should stop paying so much attention to the cage fights that are about to happen on the lawn. Stop all the bread and circuses, and stop putting every other thought on Truth Social, and actually maybe spend some time with your briefing papers and read. I know you like everything on a card, apparently, but, actually read. I hate to say this, and I'm going to say it. Donald Trump does not have the personality to be the president of the United States. He is the president, but he does not have the right personality to be a very, very effective president, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be effective, and that doesn't mean God hasn't allowed him to get into that office. Doesn't mean he can't be effective in some areas. But to be a really good politician leader, you have to have certain disciplines, right? It's not the same thing as being a business owner and a deal cutter and cutting business deals. And I've said this on the air. And one of the things that makes for great leaders who can make good decisions is they are readers. They are soaked in reading. They read. They're very much into the books. I mean, you can think of Winston Churchill, and we can go through a long list of people that not only were readers, but wrote books. And I don't think Donald Trump's written a book himself. I think there are books out there, but I would venture to guess they were ghostwriters. I don't see Donald Trump sitting down and writing a book like, maybe you and I've done. I'm sure you've written books, but there's Winston Churchill above your head. I mean, the good leaders are historians. They are constantly reading. They constantly have a book in front of them. And I've read about some of these leaders who that's what they were known for. They always had a book in their hand. They were reading at the breakfast table. They were reading at the dinner table. They were always acquiring knowledge, okay? That is so crucial. And the guys that I know that have made good businessmen, they're very much like Donald Trump. They're type A, they're aggressive, they see a deal, they don't wait weeks and days and months and years. They move on it, they make fast decisions, they can lead people, they can encourage them. Donald Trump, believe it or not, does have the ability to really encourage people. He knows how to motivate people. I've seen it being in the room with him, watching him motivate my kids, motivating me. He signed the book about Mar-a-Lago to me. He didn't just sign his name and say, here, he inscribed, great work, Brandon, great work in his name. He knows how to motivate people, okay? He has what it takes, obviously, to be a really good businessman. He's proven that. But that doesn't translate to the political public policy world. And his biggest failure has been his lack of reading, in-depth understanding, comprehensive worldview understanding, and good, solid advisors around him who are picked for their depth of knowledge. That's my opinion. What do you think?
No, I agree with many chunks of that. And you need to be reading, you need to delve into history, you need to understand other leaders and why they did what they did. You need to understand church history to understand how God moves. You need to immerse yourself. And we have so much information available to us. And yet because of social media, we become 10 seconds. We're jumping, and we need to get back to actually spending time and absorbing information, absorbing history, absorbing what other people have learned and the life lessons they leave for us, so that we don't have to make similar mistakes to maybe great leaders have made, that we can plot a different course with that understanding. So you're right. And I love about President Trump that he just goes for something, that he does things that he believes are right. But my frustration is that he doesn't understand the Middle East. He doesn't understand Islam. He thinks everything can be sorted out by a deal.
Right.
He thinks actually money can solve everything. When you've got 1,400 years of hatred, you're not really going to be able to throw money at that. You can throw money and then they will kill you. So it's irrelevant. Now, the whole Abrahamic Accords, the whole trade deals that Israel has tried to do with countries have actually held away some of that anger that naturally exists in the Middle East, certainly towards Israel. And I certainly agree with everything that Trump has done in terms of keeping Israel in its place, because even geopolitically, you want to have a buffer against every one of those Islamic nations. Even if you don't understand the Bible, if you don't understand the promises, you still surely want a buffer of freedom against what is happening. But President Trump thinks you can throw money at it, so he doesn't get it. And similar to Nigel Farage, he doesn't really get Islam because he doesn't see this through the lens of biblical history. He doesn't see any of this, neither of them, through the understanding of the promises of what God has made to individuals and what they mean for us today. The Bible, it's not just individual books. It is a thread that runs through, which is God's specific story with so many people of so many times, and yet he remains constant throughout that. And we lose that at our peril. But yeah, it is this understanding of Islam which rejected Christians and Jews because Muhammad was rejected as the final prophet in 627. So we're literally 1,400 years ago. This is what happened from 624 to 629, whenever those three Jewish tribes were actually killed by Muhammad over that time. And that's what history teaches us. And today it is no different. It doesn't matter that we have got fancier houses, that we've got faster modes of transport, that we think we're more intelligent. Actually, we're the same human beings as they are. We just have access to more stuff, and we think that makes us superior or smarter. It really doesn't. And we need to be able to go back and learn the lessons which our forefathers over hundreds and hundreds of years, which they had to learn. They're the same lessons. We do things the same way as human beings. Islam is the same belief system. Christianity is exactly the same. So nothing changes under the sun. That's Solomon said. Nothing changes at all.
So as we get ready to wrap, let's ask a couple more questions here related to Nigel. Is he going to be the prime minister?
If I was a betting man, I'd probably put money on it. I think he will. Reform UK are doing exceptionally well. The Conservatives, Conservative in name only, have done nothing. They're polling 18%, 19%. Go back 10 years ago when they were polling 35%. So they've been decimated. They haven't recovered because of from 2010 to 2024, those 14 years, they decimated our country, and they were cultural Marxists. That's what the Conservative Party were. They didn't conserve anything, but they destroyed every fabric of society. And then Labour came in and they turbocharged it. So you've got those. Where do people go if they actually love their country, if they're patriots, if they're conservative in any way, if they're Christians? Where do they go if they believe in biblical values? Then actually it's towards reform, even though it is certainly not Christian in basis at all. And I would argue is not really conservative, it's more libertarian. Yet it is much better than what we have at the moment. So I think, and there's a by-election, which is an election for an MP. When an MP resigns or dies, there's an election in that area. So if one of your House of Representatives, I guess, died, I guess you would have an election, then someone would be put there. That's what we have at the moment in 10 days, I think. Something like 10 days, 7 days. And that's going to be a huge issue because the person running for that on the Labour side, the socialist side, Andy Burnham, wants to dethrone Keir Starmer as Prime Minister and take over the Labour Party and take over as Prime Minister. So that's the shenanigans on the Labour Party, which are polling 18%, 19%. And Nigel is kind of out of all that fight of the Tories trying to fix themselves and show that actually we are conservative, the Labour Party destroying themselves and trying to understand what their vision is. And then you've got Nigel Farage actually is separate from all of that and standing up as a man of common sense. And that's why I think that, 3 years is a long time in politics. So 3 years out, who knows what will happen. But at the moment, if there is an election today, the Reform UK would win that election. It may be a minority or maybe a small majority. And Nigel Farage would be Prime Minister, which is what he's wanted. He's a politician. He's wanted to climb that greasy pole, and that'll be the top of that greasy pole. And well done to him for getting there if he does. But he is certainly the best. There are other options, but none of them are performing well. But this by-election will be a test to see what happens. it could actually be a week today, because most of our elections are on Thursday, so it could be a week today, and it'll be fascinating to watch that, and we'll certainly keep you posted, Brandon, on how the results develop, because that lays the land in terms of where we are as a nation going forward politically.
Yeah, well, keep us posted on that, and I would pray that he bring you back in as a consultant, if nothing else, to help understand the Christians in the voting bloc who could be greatly influenced by him taking on a few key issues, right? We don't have to agree with someone on every issue to get a good leader that will do better than the last guy. I mean, like Reagan said, someone that disagrees with us, someone that agrees with us 80% of the time is not a 20% enemy. So if he were smart, he'd bring you in as a counselor on these vital issues, even if off the record. And Tommy Robinson, we've had him on quite a bit. Where you're smiling already? Where is he at on all this? Do you see this guy running for? Your system and your parliamentary system? Do you have to be in the parliament to run? I don't think you do, right? I mean, if enough people wanted him, and is there a future for Tommy Robinson without running for parliament, or will he run for parliament?
So back in the day when I was national campaign manager of UKIP, UK Independence Party, just as Nigel was stepping away from it, that was 2019. And remember, we had the local elections and the European Parliament elections, and Tommy wanted to run. And it was interesting conversations we had behind the scenes. And in the end, he ran, I think, as an independent and not as UKIP. Tommy and Nigel are opposites in terms of, in many ways, but also they have a similar vision. Tommy is actually a more conservative individual. Nigel is not. Nigel probably doesn't take criticism as well as Tommy, probably take it better. Nigel doesn't want to work with Tommy because he sees it as political suicide. And in the UK, I can understand his point. In the US, you see him differently. You don't see Tommy Robinson through the media, through the Daily Mail or the Times or the tabloids, what they write about him, where in the UK you do. Tommy has huge support, and he has tried to run before, hasn't worked. He actually is able to set the agenda outside politics as much maybe as he could do within. I mean, if he became an MP, he would be one of 650. And if you take one of your House of Representatives person and they're one person, they cannot do a single thing. They have to work with others. So unless Tommy could actually work with others, it wouldn't happen. But the establishment would do everything to stop it. Similar to what we've seen in France against Le Pen, in Austria against the Freedom Party, in Germany against the Alternative for Deutschland, in et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Similar to what we saw in Hungary against Orban. The state will throw everything to stop him getting in, and they generally will get their way. So I don't think he will run. I don't think he has any plans. He's kind of been through that. 2019 wasn't successful. Is doing hugely well in terms of media. Thank God for Elon Musk and actually highlighting what he's doing, and literally blowing up his message in social media terms. And obviously he was over in the States, and he's been on with you. I saw him speaking at a number of events stateside when he's over there for 5-6 weeks.
I think he's coming back. I think he's going to be back here in the next couple of weeks.
I know he's wanted to come back. I probably message him maybe every other week, every 3 weeks. It's not so often, but certainly I've known him for 18 years, and I hope he does get over, because his message is vital of warning America what has happened in the UK, warning you to take a different course, and then pleading for you to help us back in the motherland to actually win back our freedoms. So I hope he does go over. The problem is his last trip was so successful. The UK government will not want him to go over, and I wonder what shenanigans they will put in place to stop it. But I hope he does get over.
Okay. Now, as we close here, do you believe, as I watch on social media, I see all of these folks attacking older people, stabbing people, punching them in the face, and whether it's in Great Britain, whether it's in Italy, Spain, all these different places that I've seen, the different countries, there seems to be a common theme with so many of them. A lot of them are from African nations. And I don't know if all of them are Muslims or if some of them are Muslims and some of them are communists. What do you make of that? Number one, I know what we make of the Muslims, but are some of them communists, you think? And then number two, why did your leaders do this? Do you guys blame some of this on Putin for all the things he stirred up and then shoving all these immigrants toward your way to try to collapse Europe? Do you blame it on Putin? Do you blame it on enemies, foreign and domestic? And do they have the shared common goal of those who are inside your government to bring them in to collapse the country? How do you view this?
Is that your last question, Bram? Seriously, how did I get to that? It's enemies within. When I look at the Muslim rape gangs that have happened across the UK, my anger is against the British establishment for turning a blind eye and allowing that to perpetuate and get worse and worse. With mass immigration, it's the UK. It was Angela Merkel that opened the doors up in Europe. It is the UK that have opened up our borders. It is the British Navy, the Royal Navy, would send boats to bring over all these dinghies to welcome them in. Here's your hotel. Here's your card with money on it. How can we look after you? So it is actually our politicians that have, through self-hatred, through abandoning our principles and values, through hitting ourselves, through trying to destroy our history through our education system, all of that means that we have adopted others with other cultures that don't see the same freedoms as we see it and see life as very different. We've brought them in and not educated anyone. It's just come in, bring your culture with you. That's multiculturalism. Actually, it should be British culture is dominant and you come in and you fit into that. But instead we've said, hey, we'll chop down British culture. You can put your tree up, whatever culture you have, and we will all worship that culture. That's where we are. And if you don't believe your nation, your culture, your society is better than others, that's patriotism. You love your nation. You love what it does, whether it's food or music or history or whatever it is, you love that. And if you reject that, then that means you don't want other people to participate. You're not, when I've been to many countries, it's, I need to take you to one of our restaurants. I need to take you to one of our cultural events, especially in Eastern Europe. They want to share their culture because they're proud of it. Here in the UK, it's we will reject our culture and bring you in and supplant your culture to be ours. That's the feelings of multiculturalism. My pure anger is against our politicians, our system, our media, the Church of England, that have actually rejected everything that we have held dear as British culture and brought that in. So that's my anger at that. And of course, the videos you're talking about, what you see is a rejection of the values that we have in our culture. And you look at, there are few countries, a country like Japan, it still keeps its culture. It still has pride in that. It has pride in the older people of Japan. It celebrates that. Yet we reject that and mock those who actually are older from our culture, who remember what it was like, very few of them left, to actually fight against the Nazis in the Second World War. We reject that at our peril, but that's where we are going. But the anger is not against the people who've been led in. The anger is about our stupidity for allowing people to come in and take over our nation.
Do you blame Putin at all for the trauma and the things he dusted up 15 plus years ago or so that moved a lot of them toward Europe?
No, I blame Britain for high energy costs. I blame Britain for collapse of culture. I blame Britain for open doors. You have to look at home. What are you doing? You can't point the finger and blame someone else if you're not doing anything. If we got our own house in order, if we had an English castle as a fortress and we knew what it was to be English and British, then of course you can point the fingers elsewhere. But to point the fingers at Putin and complain about like energy costs, whenever we are ramping up green levies on top, whenever we are shutting down power plants, whenever we're not building more, whenever we are making transportation costs so expensive, whenever we are putting huge levies on fuel at the petrol pump, at the tank, whenever you fill your car up. So over 65% of that is levied to the government. So whenever you're destroying businesses in that way, you can't then blame someone thousands of miles away. We're making our own problems because we are not actually making our country self-sufficient. So the problems are homemade, I believe, 95%.
Wow. Let's go right to his website and show you his website that you guys should be following and keeping track of. And that is, you've seen on the screen here, heartsofoak.org. There it is, heartsofoak.org. He is on our broadcast network on Saturday and Sundays. At what time, guys? 3 p.m. Central, Saturday and Sundays. Do we got all 3 shows, Logan, or are we just carrying 2? Oh, we need to find out about the 3rd. We should carry him Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a couple times on Saturday, a couple times on Sunday. I mean, his content's amazing. I hope you'll check it out. Heartsofoak.org, heartsofoak.org. Peter, I know we kept you a little longer than we were going to, but thank you. Wealth of information. It's been too long. We look forward to having you back. Please keep us posted. We should be getting you back on more regularly, because so much of I think we're headed toward a one world government. I think it's going to be a Eurocentric world government. I think it will be based in a big part of Europe. I think you're going to see a lot of it move to the Middle East, but Europe be heavily involved in that Eurocentric world government. I think you're going to see the IMEC, India, what is the IMEC? India, Middle East, Economic European Corridor, IMEC, that they're working on. I don't know how much you've studied that, but we've been talking about that a lot. Then you add in the Al-Fal port that's being built all through Babylon, all through Iraq, rails, underwater tunnels, roads. Then you add in the Belt and Road Initiative. I think if a deal can be made for all 3 of those to come together, you have the makings for a Eurocentric world government as described in Revelation 17 and 18, where the commerce and the control and the money is overwhelming. So I think we have to keep our eye on what's going on in Great Britain, because I think a lot of influence. And of course, London is a major financial hub of the world. A lot of people think about New York, and they don't remember or don't know how much of an economic hub is London for the world as well. So you're in a very strategic part of the world to keep our eye on. So thank you for being with us.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you very soon.
Peter McInvey checking in, heartsofoak.org. Great interview. Guys, we'll be right back.
Introducing Worldview Tube Vault. Over 35 years of radio broadcasts, television programs, documentaries, and ebooks. Plus, Worldviewpedia, our powerful search engine for instant worldview and Bible research. Join for as little as $7.99 a month. And now, Vault members get something brand new, courses. Our very first course is here, the Book of Revelation with Brannon House. 53 in-depth lessons, complete with overview quizzes, walking you verse by verse through one of the most important books in Scripture. Getting started is simple. Go to worldviewtube.com/vault and join today. Already a member? Visit worldviewtube.com, click the person icon in the top right, and log in. Then hover over Vault in the menu and select Courses. That's it. You're in. Join WorldviewTube Vault today at worldviewtube.com/vault.
Joining me now is Dr. Bashima. Let's talk hormones. Beyond the headlines, reevaluating the Women's Health Initiative. Why the WHI findings were misinterpreted. Hormones and so many other very important treatments. Also for women dealing with menopause. I think that's, all in here as well. She joins us now, Dr. Bashima Williams. Hello, Doc.
Hi, Brandon. How are you? Thank
Good.
you for having me on your show today. I know it's been a very busy news day.
It has.
Really. Yeah, I feel like every day is a busy news day these days, though.
It does seem like it, doesn't it? And by the way, your website is down. We keep getting a lot of emails from people asking, where is the website? Where's the website? You want to explain what's going on and when we'll be back up?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just contacted by another website called myvitamins.com, and we're My Vitamins and they're My Vitamin. And so the plural. And they want us to release our website. So we are actually in the middle of rebranding everything anyway. And so we really want to rebrand it with our medical practices that we have. So we are just in the middle of rebranding. That's all. It's not a big deal. The same exact supplements. And in fact, people who are on auto shipped, those orders are still being processed just like normal. Anyone who wants a new script, they can just reach out to us at our medical practice. They can go to Being Functional, BEING functional.com. But really, there's a phone number there that you can reach out to us through. But to be honest with you, Brandon, we are going to be up and running hopefully within the next 2 weeks, and we'll be able to support everyone's needs again. And this time we'll be bigger and better. So, what the enemy intends for harm, God uses for his glory. And this was just a perfect time for us to stop and rebrand anyway.
Good. I'm glad it worked out. All right. It is working out. All right. Let's go to this new graphic. I asked you about this, and you said, yeah, let's build a graphic and talk about it. So here we go. Please. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So you were asking me about menopause, and specifically, I think you were asking because there's somebody special in your life who may be going through menopause or in it, and the confusion.
Logan, did you really mean for her to out you like that, Logan? All right, keep going. Sorry, Doc.
Yeah. So, there's been a lot of confusion around, should I go on hormones? Should I not go on hormones? And I have been doing hormones now for almost 30 years, and I've been doing them pretty much the same way, and I really kind of dug deep into this back in 2003 when the WHI study came out. So the WHI study is the Women's Health Initiative, and I sort of summarized it on this slide over here. So on the top part of the slide, on the left-hand side, we go through, and this is sort of what I was researching way back in 2003. Basically, what happened is the WHI committee, a small part of the committee, decided that the results of the study so far on one of the largest studies being done on hormone replacement therapy in women, they concluded that there was an increased risk of breast cancer and heart disease. So they made this warning. And, if you were watching the Today Show back then, they actually had a warning where hormone replacement therapy can cause breast cancer and heart disease. So everyone stopped their hormone replacement therapy. But there were a lot of flaws in their study, and they have now since corrected. They actually sent the report to JAMA, which is a major publication. Their conclusion to JAMA prematurely before the rest of the committee had a chance to review it. And while the rest of the committee did not agree with it because it was already being printed, they did not retract their conclusions. This is back in 2003. And Brandon, what I want you to appreciate is this, and not just you, Brandon, but really everyone. The problem is that there's a limited amount of time that can pass by before you have to start hormone replacement therapy. Otherwise, it's a higher risk option for you. Okay. Now, this was over 20 years ago that these conclusions were made falsely, and unfortunately, all these women in that generational gap, all these women who were 50 at the time of 2003, who are now in their 70s, they missed out on hormone replacement therapy and are high risk now to go on it. So they're missing out on all the cardiovascular benefits, the brain health benefits, and the bone benefits. I call those the benefits that are invisible because they don't hurt you until something happens, until you start having dementia, until you fall and break a bone because you have severe osteoporosis. And this hormone is a hormone of longevity. And if you use it properly, then quality of life significantly increases and improves. And I just want to stop there and just see if you have any questions so far about that.
No, I don't. But I do know that I have people I have known who are now in their 80s who never went on hormone therapy because they were told it would cause cancer, and they never went on it. And of course, the sad thing is some of these people that should have maybe gone on it, some of them went on to develop Alzheimer's and dementia.
Exactly. That's the problem. That is the problem we're facing now. Now we're dealing with the consequences of erroneous conclusions back in 2003. And there's literally nothing we can do about it except for just really maximizing health style and medicine and all this stuff. So I do want to go through that WHI study in case there's any confusion in terms of why it was a bad study to begin with. The number one, and this is why I made this slide. So on the top part of that slide, on the left-hand side, you'll see that the average age of the participants was 63 years old, way past menopause. And we already know now with the time hypotheses that if you don't start hormone replacement therapy within a 10-year window of the last day of your period or when you go into menopause, if you don't start hormone therapy within 10 years, then you innately, regardless of the type of hormone that's being used, will have a slightly higher risk for strokes and other cardiovascular events. And so this is where the conclusion, when you're already treating high-risk people, then the conclusion, of course, is going to not be in your favor. But if you start women at age 50 or 52 on hormone replacement therapy, then that risk is nullified. That risk does not exist in terms of increasing the risk of cardiovascular events. The second big part of the test, and this is probably the part that I appreciated the most back then, was that they were using the hormone, an estrogen hormone that was from a horse's urine that is really, really strong. And they were using it in an oral form. So it was a pill that you took. Okay. So that's kind of bad on two things. One, it's not your bioidentical estrogen. Okay. And it works much more aggressively than the bioidentical estrogen that your body naturally makes.
Okay.
And
So I'm not a doctor, but I think taking a pill with horse urine, I could probably pretty much tell you as not a doctor, that's probably not a good idea.
Well, I didn't think so. And I didn't think it was
I'm not even a doctor, but I don't think you should be taking horse pee. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's how they manufactured this hormone, and this is the hormone they were using. So basically, just to keep it simple, they were using non-bioidentical hormones that were much stronger, and they were taken orally. The reason why that's a big deal is when you take a hormone orally, especially estrogen, it has to go through the liver. There's something called a first pass liver. So literally you have to use 4 times the normal dose compared to if you were using estradiol, which is bioidentical, in a patch form, just something you put on your bottom. That's what I use. I use estradiol patch. You can take micronized progesterone orally. You cannot use progestin. They sound very similar. Micronized progesterone and progestin sound like the same thing. One of them is synthetic, one of them isn't. So if you can take micronized progesterone orally and you can use an estradiol patch, that's the modern way of using hormone replacement therapy. We will do some creams and things like, we'll use a little testosterone cream for women. I'm focusing on women's health today, but obviously we also treat men with testosterone, and a lot of the men actually get pellets put in, which is phenomenal for them. Their vitality comes back, their energy comes back, their muscles come back. Obviously their libido comes back, but for women.
Whoa, stop right there. How do you put that in there? What do you do?
Oh, it's just a little needle in the back, in the buttock, and the testosterone looks like a little grain of rice. That's what a pellet looks like, and so there's just a little trochanter that pushes it into the muscle tissue in the bottom.
And you've done that with your guys that are what, 55 plus or what?
Anyone who has very low testosterone that we can't reverse naturally for whatever reason. And so we've done it on younger men, but mostly it's 55 and above. You're right. And, and I'm telling you what, it wakes them up. It wakes them up from the slumber. They've been working out and injuring their ligaments, and muscles aren't growing, and, erection problems and all sorts of things. And that's men's health. But for women, we do use the pellets as well, especially for libido, but also we do the cream for women with the testosterone. We also do a vaginal cream or a vaginal pill that releases localized estradiol, bioidentical estradiol, into the vagina for, pain with intercourse and things like that. So this is definitely something that, this is the modern way of treatment. There's different modalities. It is not a pill form for estradiol. I have no patients on a pill form of estradiol. In fact, when I get patients, for the first time, they see me and I'm like, oh, I can't prescribe this oral estradiol. We'll transition over to a patch, and they're like, this works so much better because the steady state of a patch is so nice, but also we don't have to use as much estrogen to get the same effect, which lowers their risk of blood clots.
So, Logan, hopefully you've been taking notes in there because, this is going to happen and come upon you faster than you know, Logan. I love picking on him.
I'll tell you what Logan has to worry about on a more immediate basis is, the wife that he might be getting soon and her going through, perimenopause. That starts at age 42. And there's a lot of women going crazy. That's like a whole nother lecture. This is not that lecture today, but that you do want to support your wife or your loved one through perimenopause. And that starts at age 42 to usually around 52. But women just feel like they're going crazy at that time. Their moods are all over the place. They cry for no reason. They're up at night. They can't sleep. They're getting hot flashes. They're getting night sweats. They're getting heavy periods. All these weird things are happening in their body, and all their labs look normal. And it's a relatively easy fix when you find out what is really causing it. But going back to this,
but by the way, some women don't. They go through menopause and they don't have the feel like they're going nuts or crazy kind of thing. Some women just go through it hardly without any signs in their emotions or anything, right?
I will tell you, the women that do that are, generally speaking, the ones that are exercising, the ones that are eating an anti-inflammatory diet, the ones who are sleeping, the ones who have stress reduction techniques, the ones who have great social support and networks. Those are the women. In fact, that's what we treat perimenopause with, because you have to understand the hormone hierarchy and its effect on sex hormones. And so the hormone hierarchy, the hormones that are most affected and the ones that you can influence the most are cortisol and insulin. So if we can balance cortisol and insulin really well, then we balance all the other hormones on top of it, because the base of the pyramid for the hormone hierarchy is cortisol and insulin. All the other hormones are on top. This is why it's not a good idea to just throw a woman on hormones. When you're in perimenopause, if you have a crappy diet, you got to fix the diet, or you will never get to a place where, where they are. And that's not always the case. There are some women who have this low degree of stress and they just keep pushing through. They don't appreciate how much it's affecting them. But stress is a big deal with how well you're affecting, with going through perimenopause.
And how long does menopause last?
Perimenopause lasts 10 years. After that, you're in menopause and for the rest of your life.
Okay.
And so that's a great question, because there's a lot of people that say, well, how long do I have to be on these hormones? As long as you want. That's the bottom line. Your cells know what to do with it. As long as you're using the right hormones at the right dose. I'm planning on staying on mine for a long time, because I know that it will reduce my heart disease, it'll improve my cognitive function, and it will improve my bone health. All of which right now are, stellar, right, in my body. But, I also do the exercise. I eat well most of the time. I sleep well. I manage stress well, all that other stuff.
What about weight gain? Is there a connection between?
Huge weight gain when you go through menopause, especially as you're transitioning through, because of the different type of hormones that predominate when in menopause, and also because you become insulin resistant. you make a different type of estrogen that promotes autoimmune diseases and it promotes belly fat. Okay, so all of a sudden you start getting belly fat for the first time in your life when you're going through late perimenopause and into menopause. So absolutely weight gain, insomnia, hot
So does
flashes,
getting on the hormones, does that reduce some of that?
Oh yeah, significantly.
So women that get
That's
on
how-
these will start dropping the weight and they'll get rid of the belly fat?
Mm-hmm. I actually gained a lot of weight when I went through menopause in 9 months. I was one of those people that no hot flashes, no night sweats. I was just breezing right through, but I had the weight gain because genetically my body was programmed for severe insulin resistance. I have a huge diabetic family history. And so the right estrogen helps with insulin sensitivity. So if all of a sudden you don't have it and you're not making it, and all of a sudden you're making this other estrogen that is pro-inflammatory, then it just worsens the insulin resistance even more. And we've had so many women where they've just gained 15, 20 pounds in 1 year. And it's all around their viscera, their belly, and in their organs and stuff. It's where you don't want it to be. So I used to have a flat stomach my whole life.
But if they get until then, but you got it back, right?
I'm almost back to where I was. It's taken me 3 years to lose that weight. And, I'm also picky, Brandon. I'm actually doing DEXA scans every 6 months, making sure I'm gaining muscle, losing fat. So I actually have 128 pounds of muscle on my body now. So, that's very important for longevity. So intentional workouts, focused on, not just like walking, although walking is great, but you want to do weight training because you want to develop muscles that will help with all those things that are required of you to be able to have a long, functional life.
Well, and that's where Melissa's at. She's exercises, she has weights that she works with and all that, because she does lunges. Okay. She had me in the backyard trying to do lunges the other day. She didn't know if I could do them. Of course I could do lunges. So anyway, she wanted me going up and down the backyard doing lunges with her. So her big thing though is muscles in your legs, because she's read the stories about the muscles in your legs are tied to your Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, that kind of thing. And she started rattling off people and family members that we know that were not involved in regular exercise. They were not involved in walking. They didn't work with weights. They didn't do any exercising. They would stand at a kitchen counter. They would cook. They would do laundry or whatever, but they weren't doing anything physical. And then these family members go on to have Alzheimer's and dementia or whatever. And we know people like this. And as you think back about people, and I can even think back about people from years ago, think, wait a minute, that person had that same lifestyle. Look what happened. So my wife is very convinced that keeping core muscle strength is going to ward off Alzheimer's and dementia, hopefully, along with the other things she does, like the glutathione.
Yeah, reducing exercise is the cheapest drug you can use, right? So exercise is super, super important. And the reason why the muscles in the legs are so important is because they're the largest, strongest muscles. But I would argue that from a functional medicine perspective, that all muscles are important. So I actually personally, as I got older, I started drawing, just because I'm, not just because I'm a doctor, because I'm interested in this. I started drawing out all the different muscle groups and I put them in groups, push, pull, legs, whatever. And I started looking at what types of exercises I needed to do, for example, to improve my back muscles or to improve the chest muscles, but to keep everything symmetrical. I didn't want to be stronger in the chest than in the back, or I didn't want my quads to be stronger than my hamstrings, or I didn't want my flexors, which are a huge problem, by the way. So for so many people that have like hip pain or stiffness when they get up, and sometimes referred knee pain, hip flexors are a really big deal. So stretching them and working them out. So I do Pilates, I do yoga, I do 3 or 4 weight training sessions a week. I walk every day. You have to kind of put in, I always call exercise as the sort of the money in the bank if you will, for me being able to be functional and do all the things I love to do. So you absolutely have to exercise. But, I think that a huge part of those women who, develop the dementia, and this is another interesting point, is women get dementia a lot more than men. And so a lot of them, had they been on hormone replacement therapy, and maybe this is a person's introduction into the world of longevity. If you start doing hormones, you start feeling better, you start having more energy, and all of a sudden you're starting to walk, 15 minutes after dinner every day. It's a starting point. It's an easy starting point if you go and see a doctor who nowadays, I was being called crazy back then for putting women on hormones. And I did not back down because I knew the reports were not accurate. What they were saying, I couldn't understand what they were saying and what I was reading, because I actually read the entire report, the WHI study. And I actually went to extra classes back then. This is early 2000s. We didn't have AI and all this other stuff. So I had to go and learn from other experts who also agreed with me, because if someone did get breast cancer, it wasn't going to be because I put them on bioidentical hormones. It was going to be because of all the other things that were cumulative through their life, their toxin burden exposure, their birth control pill use, their obesity, not having kids, not nursing. There's so many risk factors for breast cancer. And if you did all of that, and now you're 52 and want hormone replacement therapy, that does not exclude you from going on it, but you need to be counseled that you have a slightly higher risk than the average population of getting breast cancer. So I had to be able to defend myself in court in case somebody did get breast cancer, that I could clearly say and prove that this was not the reason why you got it.
Mm. Well, we sure are thankful you're on our team, Doc. I'll tell you that much. And we look forward to all the response we're going to get. Maybe, folks, how about this? Email in your questions to me, Brandon at worldviewtube.com, or Brandon at worldviewtube.com. And maybe next week, what we can do is go through some of the questions that this has sparked. So if you have questions, put into the subject line, question for Dr. Bashima or Dr. Williams, whichever one you want. Put in question for Dr. Bashima, and I'll ask your questions to her next week on this topic, okay? Because I bet you this is going to spark a lot of Q&A. Now, my largest demographic is women 55 years of age and older. So ladies, here you have a male host who's looking out for you, trying to resource you, help you. So remember, ladies, who is on your team and in your corner? Okay, we are. And I say that because guess what? Our biggest support, not only in viewership, but the biggest support for our foundation comes from the women. So ladies, if you appreciate that we have a well-rounded program schedule here and that we talk about all kinds of things, including topics like this, which I don't think you're going to see a lot of male hosts deliberately doing programming like this. But I have a wife, and she's now 55, and I have a lot of ladies that listen to my broadcast. That's my biggest demographic, 55 and older. And a lot of you are the ones that also support us financially through our foundation. More women donate to us than men. And that doesn't mean the men don't support it. The men may say, yeah, honey, take care of that. But the women are the ones that really keep this network afloat. So we're very aware of that. We're very aware of who our audience is and our demographic and strong supporters. And we want to resource you and give you information like this. Okay, so if you appreciate what we're doing, again, we appreciate your support so we can bring you programs like this. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Now, send in your questions. And next week, I'll forward those over to Dr. Bashima, and then we'll start, so she'll know what's coming. And then we'll start answering some of those questions next week. Sound like a good idea?
That sounds like a great idea to me. And we do get some questions through, we were getting some questions through myvitamin.com, but we're not getting that anymore. So, but stay tuned. We're excited for the rebranding, and I am so excited to just push this off and get back on,
Yeah, we are too. Well, we are too. We are too. We're getting a lot of emails on it. One final question: peptides. Because you had me on the PCP 157. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yes. BPC 157.
social media is full of all these people saying, you people, you are the most health conscious. You didn't take any of the shots. You're so health conscious. You wouldn't take any of the, you know what, shots. And now you stab yourself with these, and they are using the mRNA and putting them in that so they can get you to be infected because they know that's the only way to get you. That's conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah, that is. And that just goes back to know your pharmacy. And it's not just that type of conspiracy, but on a more real basis, what else is in it? How stable are those peptides? Is what's in it what they promise to be? What's in it really? What's in it? So we, unfortunately, the peptides we use we are so picky. So we only have 3 sources that we've trust with our peptides. And, they're a little bit more pricey because of that. But they're the 3 sources that we trust. We evaluated them. We know where they're coming from, and we know what's put in it. And the pharmacists are, not only are they, the companies that we use also have pharmacists and people that run the companies that actually were sick themselves and got better with functional medicine and with peptides and so on and so forth. So they're very committed at a much, not just financial level, but really at a deep level of healing. So it's really cool that we get to do that. They select who they work with because, that's just what they do. And they want people who know what they're doing with peptides to be able to order from them. So that being said, once we get back up and running, I've been given permission to use a oral form of BPC with another peptide called KPV that we can actually sell on our platform. So we got a lot of questions about people wanting the injectables, and that is not something we take lightly. So we can't use that for everyone, but the oral form is really effective as well. And in fact, I use it more than the other, partly because I treat a lot of guts, but also because a lot of my patients prefer it. Having used both, they prefer the oral form.
Wow. There you go, Dr. Bashima. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. So good to be here again. Take care.
You too. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Again, thank you for your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. Hey, will you go join the vault right now? Go join the vault. We need your membership so we keep having the capital to finish up this amazing, powerful worldview and Bible software that we demoed at the beginning of the program. Launching on or around July 1st. We demoed it for you tonight, folks. Are you excited? It's going to be amazing. The premier biblical worldview Bible software. I don't think anyone else has something like this. So please join now so we have the revenue to continue finishing it up and launch it July 1st. Worldview 2 on or around July 1st. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Thanks for watching. May God save America. Take care.
Education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
All right, for the second time this week, our entire planned program gets set aside because of breaking news. Well, the news right now, folks, but wait an hour, it'll change. The news right now is Trump says deal with Iran agreed upon by all parties involved. He cancels the strikes. Trump also said the Kurds had let the U.S. down by not disrupting weaponry delivered to them by the U.S. during the Iran protests. We're going to be joined by Dr. Andy Woods and by Aharon Levarko on the ground in Israel. Around the 30 or 40 mark, we'll also be joined by our Iranian correspondent, really. Anni Cyrus will be with us. So again, big news. It's always developing, and it is what it is now. What it will be 2 hours from now is a different thing. But this is not going to go away. I am still of the opinion that there will be no lasting peace until the Antichrist shows up. Will they get some deal? Maybe. Will they make it to the ceremony and sign it? Maybe. Will it last? I don't think so. I think this is exactly what the Islamists do. And we'll get, of course, a response from all those involved. Joining me now by phone is Dr. Andy Woods, and we'll be joined in just one moment by Aharon Levarko out of Israel. Dr. Woods, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brandon, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. What do you make of this latest breaking news story right now, Dr. Woods?
Well, I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, we knew that a deal was in the making. But having said all that, I'm not real optimistic about the future because of something called Taqiya and something called Hudna, where these types of people, these neo-Nazi Islamic regimes, view these things not as U-turns, but as mere speed bumps. And a deal to these people, means absolutely nothing. I mean, they're allowed to lie to advance the cause of Allah. And so with that being said, as much as from a human point, I'm happy with any deal, I don't see this really being long-term. I think we're well on our way into Ezekiel 38 and 39, where there will be an invasion, as God predicts there in that passage, from Iran, Russia, and Turkey into the land of Israel in the last days. And there's nothing in that prophecy that says, hey, this prophecy is called off if a president from America can work out some kind of deal. I mean, Iran is what she is. She's been breaking deals from time immemorial, and I don't really think in the long run, this is really worth the paper that it's written on.
Exactly right. Joining us now is Aharon Levarko from Israel. Aharon, that's a big news, and we had to set aside our whole program for today, second time this week, due to breaking news out of the Middle East. And the headline is by President Trump, and it's out on X and on social media, True Social. Here it is. Based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved, I have, as President of the United States of America, canceled the scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran this evening. Discussions and final points have been, in both concepts and great detail, approved by all parties involved, including the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, and others. The naval blockade will remain in full force in effect until this transaction is finalized. Time and place of the signing to be announced shortly. President Donald J. Trump. Aharon, your response tonight, Israel time.
Well, Trump has been pushing, for the last few months at least, 38 times he has pushed and called for a deal. He has got it so far on paper, like you said, who knows what it's going to be like in a couple of hours. And Dr. Andy referred to something in Islam, I think it's called Taraweeh, where it's part of